Chapter 1654. Right now, if there was only one person who had deleted the comments about Disneyland, then it would be a miracle. It was not enough to attract attention. However, there were simply too many people who deleted it. Such a situation was immediately discovered by someone with an eye. In an instant, the situation became a topic. It was posted in a thread. It caused the heat to keep brewing. More and more people realized that things seemed to be a little off. Lin Yuan, who was standing beside Gao Feng. He did not expect Gao Feng to address him as Brother Lin. Lin Yuan knew that Gao Feng did not mean it. Lin Yuan did not mind it. Just like the silver mask, he had to remove it today. Gao Feng gave Lin Yuan an apologetic look. Gao Feng knew that it was best for him not to say anything at this moment. Otherwise, any response from him would be overly interpreted. Lin Yuan was about to speak. Suddenly, a dimensional rift opened in the sky above Lin Yuan and Gao Feng. The originally clear sky suddenly darkened. The rift was like a black and red scar that constantly twisted and tore in the sky. According to the size of this dimensional rift, Lin Yuan immediately judged that this dimensional rift should be at the pinnacle of Class 1. It opened in the sky and not on the ground. This meant that this dimensional rift could not be an underground dimensional rift. No water flowed out from the dimensional rift. It could not be a water world dimensional rift either. Logically speaking, after a dimensional rift formed, it would brew for a period of time before spitting out an alien beast tide. However, the dimensional rift above Lin Yuan's head did not do so. This dimensional rift was like eating 250 kilograms of croton. It spat out a large number of alien insects with ferocious momentum. It could be said that from the appearance of the dimensional rift to the spitting of the alien beast tide, it happened in the blink of an eye. This did not conform to the pattern of the emergence of the alien beast tide. The Star Web's test venue could be adjusted at will. For example, the dimensional rift that suddenly opened. Without giving people time to prepare, it immediately spat out an alien beast tide. It made these dimensional rifts extremely dangerous. Gao Feng saw the densely packed alien insects. They were pouncing toward him and Lin Yuan. He did not even summon his Fei. He just subconsciously looked at Lin Yuan. Among all of Gao Feng's Feis, it was the only Fei with some combat power. Only the breeze hibiscus. However, the breeze hibiscus was a support Fei. In front of the massive bug tide, it was completely useless. Once the alien insect found its target, it would immediately explode. They would immediately become ferocious and fight to the death with their target. As an alien insect that would treat its companions as food when they were extremely hungry. All living things were food that the alien insects had to eat after discovering them. Lin Yuan didn't panic at all under the menacing alien insects' attacks. Lin Yuan was like a famous general who remained unmoved in the face of thousands of soldiers and horses. Lin Yuan knew about the netizens on Star Web. He had always been curious about his phase. Lin Yuan did not want to deliberately hide it. It was just that when they were battling on the Heaven's Stairway, he had never met an opponent strong enough to force him to summon it. In the face of the insect tide, he could make many choices. For example, he unfurled his wings made of day and night spirit silver feathers. Then, he carried Gao Feng and flew into the sky. It was just that once he did so, his direction of flight would guide the trajectory of the insect swarm. It was considered as using an external force to disrupt the original course of the test. To many examinees, this was extremely unfair. Therefore, he gave up this option. Lin Yuan did not intend to summon Red Thorn now. Red Thorn's strength had increased to Platinum 3/Fantasy V. It was a pinnacle 6-winged demon that was only one step away from becoming an 8-winged demon. It was Lin Yuan's trump card. It was impossible for Lin Yuan to reveal it easily. If Lin Yuan really summoned Red Thorn now, given Red Thorn's strength, it could easily surround and kill a Class 5 demon that was equivalent to a Diamond Fey in the Sea of Flowers. Class 5 demons would only appear in Class 3 and above dimensional rifts. After Red Thorn appeared, the test space that constantly opened dimensional rifts would become Red Thorn's cafeteria. It would become Red Thorn's cafeteria. Facing the alien beast tied in front of him, Lin Yuan had to control a Fey and display a method. At the same time, this method must not affect the insect tide's movement route. At that moment, the insect tide was less than 20 meters away from Lin Yuan and Gao Feng. The audience on Star Web sensed this scene. They could not help but roar. Among 100 ordinary people, there might only be 3 to 7 spirit chi professionals. In other words, most of those who logged on to Star Web were ordinary people who were not even spirit chi professionals. These ordinary people did not have the opportunity to face the insect tide at such a close distance. Mina sang, "These alien insects are really frightening me to death. My husband is going to be eaten into dregs by the insects. Guren, this feeling is so great. Why am I not a spirit chi professional? I don't have the talent of a spirit chi professional. Happy morning, I have been unhappy with black for a long time. Did black cerebellum suddenly shrink? It can't move, or is it scared silly? Didn't black use the Sea of Flowers to fight against the alien insect dimensional rift in Millstone Town? It could do it back then, so why can't it do it now?" The alien insects were getting closer and closer to black. They were so close that they could jump onto black's body with a light leap. At that moment, the ground suddenly shook. A quicksand ravine lay in between black and these alien insects. It drew a clear dividing line on the ground. Those alien insects that leaped up were all knocked back by the splashing gravel in the ravine. The entire land instantly turned into boiling quicksand. A pinnacle class 1-dimensional rift's insect tide was forcefully stopped just like that. This scene stunned everyone who saw it from Black's perspective. Everyone had always known that Black had a sand elemental life form. However, they did not expect this sand elemental life form. It was actually able to control such a huge amount of yellow sand. Before everyone could exclaim in surprise, they saw the surging yellow sand. Suddenly, a castle was erected. The gravel constantly assembled. It made the shape of the castle become even more exquisite. It was as though there was something inside the castle supporting the structure of the castle. After the appearance of the castle, the boiling yellow sand stopped. Only the sand flow below the castle was still surging violently. It pushed the castle into the sky. Those alien insects wanted to climb up the yellow sand castle. However, they were all slid down by the quicksand on the surface of the castle. The originally boiling yellow sand became compacted. The castle completely isolated the aura of flesh and blood. After a long time, the insect tide that could not climb above the yellow sand castle finally ignored the existence of the castle. They finally ignored the existence of the castle and rushed into the distance. The scene of the yellow sand castle and the insect tide coexisting in the sky. Or rather, it was Lin Yuan's method. The audience instantly lost their ability to think. Chapter 1655. Then, the anti-fans. It was as if he had returned to the first time he saw Black beating the celestial stairway. He wanted to see what other spirit chi professionals used in battle. Or they would conform to the rules. Otherwise, he would at most be evaluated as valiant. But every time Black used his ability, it was just too shocking. A castle that occupied an area of at least 500 square meters stood in the air. The quicksand below blocked the path of any insects. In the end, the alien insects were helpless. He chose to ignore the existence of Yellow Sand Castle. There had always been a legend on the Star Web about Black protecting Millstone Town from the insect tide. They were also facing the insect tide. But Black's methods were different from before. The Sea of Flowers had turned into a castle made of yellow sand. But no matter what method he used, it allowed Black to be safe and sound when it faced the bug wave. Previously, there had been a lot of discussions about Black on the Star Web. In the early days, Black had been the Star Fae. It had always been that plant source-type life form that could rapidly expand the sea of flowers. Plenty of creation masters started to post as well. He analyzed the plant-type source-type life form. Even Master Duanli, who had been paying attention to Black. They even dug up their graves and hacked the previous battle video. He wrote an analysis of Red Thorn's abilities. In the end, Master Duanli's answer was, Black's plant-type source-type life form had special abilities. When their strength reached a certain level, they could obtain energy by hunting alien insects. Thus, they spread the sea of flowers. Only then would they be able to maintain a delicate balance when facing the ferocious insect tide. If he wanted to start it, he would need a large number of insect corpses as raw materials. Lin Yuan had not read Master Duanli's analysis of Red Thorn. If Lin Yuan had seen this, he would have given Master Duanli a round of applause. The battle against the insect swarm outside Millstone Town. Due to the dimensional rift, all electronic devices had malfunctioned. There were no videos or recordings as evidence. Yet, Master Duanli was able to analyze so many things. It was enough to show Master Duanli's abilities as a class for creation master. Everything Master Duanli said was correct. However, Master Duanli was analyzing Red Thorn's version 1.0. At that time, Red Thorn's rank was only at the bronze rank. He had yet to fuse the willpower rune and become a fantasy breed. And now, Red Thorn had gone through several evolutions. His strength had reached Platinum 3/Fantasy 3. They wouldn't need Master Duanli's bug corpses to fight the bug tide. The Eye of Relinquish was Red Thorn's energy reserve. Every Eye of Relinquish could produce a sea of flowers that spanned a square kilometer for Red Thorn. Ever since Red Thorn entered the mouth of Relinquish, it had split into 3. The number of Eyes of Relinquish had already reached 324. If Red Thorn wanted to, it could instantly deplete the Eye of Relinquish's energy reserves. The area of the Sea of Flowers expanded to more than 300 square kilometers. Red Thorn had spread out a sea of flowers. It could be defined as an AoE skill that combined both attack and control. For a fantasy breed Fae, such an attack range was extremely powerful. It could be said that it was completely out of the ordinary. As of now, Lin Yuan had not heard of any fantasy breed Faes. It could spread its attack range so far. Even those poison-type Faes that were adept at area of effect attacks would not be able to withstand it. Since the poison had drifted so far, it should have dissipated long ago. At the same time, the Star Web's creation masters speculated that Red Thorn was a plant-type source-type life form. What he said before was indeed correct. But saying that now was already wrong. At this moment, Red Thorn had completely become a fairy source-type life form. He was only one step away from achieving the 8 Wings bloodline. Among the known fairy source-type life forms, there was no need to worry. It was enough to be called the peak of the bloodline. After a brief silence, the audience watching this scene. Suddenly, a trace of comprehension appeared in his heart. The name Black itself was like a miracle. Because Black seemed to be able to appear at any time and any place without anyone noticing. To create a miracle. Black, awesome. Bullet screens flooded the live stream room. But as they swiped, they discovered something to their surprise. The yellow sand castle had a shielding function. Everyone looked at Black's or Gao Feng's. All they could see was the yellow sand castle itself. He could not see the 2 people inside the castle. Your castle is indeed very good looking and is not inferior to some class 4 spirit craftsmen. But you won't let me see him. What's with only showing me the castle? As long as you stay in the castle, you'll be able to survive until the end of the test. You're not going to make us look at the yellow sand castle for 3 days straight, right? At this time, Lu Shuang and Poison Beauty's livestream gathered the most anti-fans. It immediately blew up. Fuck. What's there to see? I've just had fun for 5 minutes and you're forcing me to enter Sage mode? Interesting soul, hehe, if the 100 sequence tests live broadcast is free, I'll ask for a refund. From now on alone, I'll wait for another half an hour. If it's still like this, I'll look at other perspectives. Black Pill, I suggest you go and look at Li Nao's perspective. The fortifications in the central area have been set up, and the team has expanded to more than 700 people. It's currently the team with the largest number of people, and it's occupying the best position. Don't waste time here. The main purpose of Lu Shuang's live stream was to live stream anti-fans. She wanted to have a one-sided collaboration with Black to increase her reputation. Brother Black, what the hell are you doing? Lu Shuang knew very well that if Black kept staying in the yellow sand castle, she would only live stream anti-fans' perspectives, and her popularity would definitely drop. However, if she did not live stream anti-fans, she would not be competitive. Seeing the bullet screen from the viewer named Black Pill on Star Web, Lu Shuang immediately muted Black Pill. Then she kicked him out of the live stream room. Damn it. Do you think the number of viewers in my live stream is not dropping fast enough? It had only been a few minutes. The number of viewers in her live stream room had dropped by 1/5. This is too fucking realistic. Lu Shuang looked at the current Star Web live stream room's popularity ranking. She found that her live stream room's popularity had dropped to 4th place. The top 2 live streams were from Li Nao's perspective. Lu Shuang thought for a moment and decided to analyze Black Sand-type Source-type lifeform. She wanted to stall for time. If Black and Gao Feng continued to hide in the yellow sand castle, she would also live stream Li Nao's perspective. If she couldn't win, she would join in. It wasn't embarrassing. You must be very curious about Black Sand-type Source-type lifeform. What grade is it, and how strong is it? Why is the range of the skills so large? Lu Shuang's question could be said to be the question in the minds of the live stream viewers. The range of the yellow sand surging just now was definitely more than 5 square kilometers. It had instantly turned a hilly area into a desert. This kind of power erupted in an instant. Chapter 1656. It didn't seem like something a fantasy breed fae could do. Li Nao didn't care about what the bullet comments were saying and continued speaking. It's still my previous deduction. Black Spirit Chi Professional can't reach A rank. This Sand-type Source-type lifeform strength is at most Diamond X/Fantasy V. It was a national live broadcast on Star Web. The Radiance Federation's holiness definitely had to consider the contestants' privacy. Therefore, they blocked all probing abilities from the audience. To put it bluntly, they could only use their vision to see the scene. They couldn't use their spiritual energy and soul power to observe and perceive like usual. This made even high-class creation masters could only rely on the Fae's ability to analyze the Fae. This was also why the Radiance Federation's holiness would be at ease to give the Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation's envoys the reason for issuing temporary Star Web cards. The annual Radiance 100 Sequence Assessment. There were a large number of Radiance Federation's prodigies of the right age who participated. These people's information. They couldn't just let the other federations have it. Most people were discussing Li Nao on the Star Web forum. But now, Black's popularity rose again. With the strength of a single person, the topic of discussion was suppressed by a team of more than 700 people. Lu Shuang saw that the audience's interest in the live broadcast room was piqued. She analyzed very seriously. If I'm not wrong, Black dropped the amber button on the ground at the beginning. It's the main body of this Sand-type Source-type lifeform. It's able to use such a large-scale ability and affect a large area of the environment. It's because this Sand-type Source-type lifeform was constantly producing sand while Black was flying. This is the only possibility that can explain why it's a fantasy breed Fae. It can burst out with the power of a myth breed Fae. There were also some words that were already on the tip of her tongue. Lu Shuang pondered for a moment and chose not to say it. Ever since Lu Shuang lost to Lin Yuan in the battle, she had been very puzzled. His Diamond X/Fantasy V Exquisite Rhinoceros Deer and the 2 Diamond X/Fantasy for Walking Witch Snakes had launched an attack. Even a myth-breed fae couldn't ignore it. However, Black's strength was at most a Diamond X/Fantasy V feline fae. Yet, he had blocked everything. He even killed the exquisite rhinoceros deer with a single strike. Even if they were both spiritual type faes, the exquisite rhinoceros deer still had the help of 2 walking wizard snakes. 3 against 1, there shouldn't be any reason for them to lose. But he had lost completely. He didn't even know how his opponent had defeated him. As the person involved, Lu Shuang couldn't figure it out. After seeing Black's other faes, Lu Shuang suddenly understood. The resources used by Black to nurture a fae. It was definitely not something that ordinary people could imagine. The greatest characteristic of elemental source-type lifeforms was that they needed to be tempered with elemental energy of the corresponding attribute. The longer one was tempered by high-purity elemental energy, the stronger one's abilities would be. Black was able to achieve this with a fantasy breed elemental source-type lifeform. It was hard for Lu Shuang to guess what kind of pure elemental energy Black normally used to temper his source-type life form. Don't tell me she's an elemental pearl. If that was the case, then what kind of identity did Black have? In short, no matter what. Black's identity was definitely not simple. Lu Shuang felt that if she continued to analyze Black without any scruples, using Black's popularity to hype himself up, he was likely to get into trouble. Thinking of this, Lu Shuang decisively changed her live stream perspective to Li Nao's. In Lu Shuang's opinion, Black in the elemental castle. There was no reason for him to come out again. Li Nao's location was the true main battlefield of the 100 sequence exam. Gao Feng was looking at the surrounding environment in amazement. Gao Feng saw chain swords drilling out of the yellow sand with his own eyes. These chain swords formed the skeleton of the yellow sand castle. The yellow sand was tightly attached to the chain swords. Gao Feng touched it and found that the yellow sand castle was no different from a rock. He tried to pull it out, but not even a trace of sand was dug out. Lin Yuan explained. The grains of sand are pressing against each other. Each grain of sand has about 100 caddies of force. The density between the grains of sand is almost the same as the radium-uranium steel used as a chain sword in the center. We have to stay in the yellow sand castle for 3 days. When the exam is over, we have to go to the central area. Let's go and see how the other contestants are going to deal with the exotic beast tide that is coming from all directions. Gao Feng swallowed his saliva when he heard Lin Yuan's words. Gao Feng was not surprised by Lin Yuan's strength. He was surprised by how strong Lin Yuan was. Gao Feng already had a plan in his heart. The champion of the Nix Assembly's civil and martial ring was not just honor. It was the most favorable proof of his strength. Gao Feng was surprised when Lin Yuan had become so high profile. In Gao Feng's impression, Lin Yuan had always been a person who kept a low profile to the bone. Gao Feng felt that Lin Yuan's current behavior, it was not quite in line with his impression. Gao Feng couldn't help but ask subconsciously. Brother Lin, are we going there like this? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded without hesitation. He said, Yes, we are really going there like this. However, I want the yellow sand castle to stay in the sky. In the next few days, I need you to help me restore the source sand's spiritual power. Gao Feng waved his hand. He summoned his 2 Diamond X/Fantasy V Spirit Spring Lilies. After the Spirit Spring Lilies appeared, the huge flowers drooped down under Gao Feng's instructions. Then, the spring water formed by Spirit Qi gushed out of the Spirit Spring Lilies. It nourished the source sand under its feet. The source sand absorbed the Spirit Qi released by the Spirit Spring Lilies and maintained its current speed in the sky. At the same time, it continued to create sand in the ground under its feet. Soon, a day had passed. The Radiance 100 Sequences test was within this day. More than 14,000 candidates had been eliminated. Apart from these candidates gathered in the central area, the remaining teams, which had reached 1,000 people, were also trying their best to rush to the central area. During this day, 10 Pinnacle Class 1-dimensional rifts had opened in succession. They thought that the Class 2-dimensional rifts would be at the elementary or intermediate level. However, the Class 2-dimensional rifts were actually at the Pinnacle level. Under the Pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rifts, there were raging Class 4-dimensional lifeforms. Each of them had the strength of platinum. Unless the candidates used their main phase, it was difficult for them to have a chance to win. However, these Class 4-dimensional lifeforms did not give the candidates a chance to fight one-on-one. They were all hidden in the turbulent alien beast tide. At any time, they could launch a fatal attack on the exhausted candidates, taking away the candidates' lives. At this moment, the candidates were shocked to find that a big monster had appeared in the sky. Chapter 1657. After a day of life and death struggle, for those who enjoyed the educational resources in school, for the highly sought-after geniuses, surviving in the wild was a little too tough. After all, most of the candidates who came to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence test were studying in Spirit Chi vocational colleges. Apart from participating in some social practice classes in school, they would also participate in some summer camps during the holidays and go on adventures. Otherwise, very few people could experience the opportunity to survive in the wild. For the candidates, surviving in the wild was very simple. At the beginning, they felt that it was very simple. It was just 3 days, and it was fine as long as they could survive. After the items in the phase storage box were checked, they could be burned into the star web. It could be said that apart from a few extremely idealistic people who didn't eat or drink for 3 days, it wasn't that the candidates couldn't survive. Basically, everyone brought a lot of food. Due to the high difficulty of the test and the need to see a person's quality, the candidates were even allowed to bring a certain amount of first aid items. It eased the pressure of the healing-type Spirit Chi professionals. The candidates thought that it was very simple, but when they faced the beast tide, in just half a day, the mentality of the candidates changed. In the face of a large-scale beast tide, a single person's strength was really too insignificant. Half an hour ago, the candidates saw the former Radiance 100 sequence 97th. He led a team of 200 people and wanted to rush to the central area. However, before they could join the main team and negotiate with Li Nao, a demon tide rushed over from afar. Even under the cover of firepower, this team of over 200 people persisted for nearly 5 minutes. However, they were still torn into pieces by the sudden demon tide. None of the candidates present were naive enough to think that he was stronger than the 97th sequence of the top 100. This matter made those who had just joined the big team led by Li Nao. The candidates who were still unconvinced understood the importance of relying on the group. Li Nao's management ability was extremely strong and fair. It didn't matter who came or whose acquaintance. Li Nao still advocated for the later teams to stick to the outer layer. This made the outer layer teams have to face the greatest pressure at all times. It was also the easiest to have casualties. However, because their own safety was threatened, when the teams at the edge were facing the other teams that were preparing to join the main team, they would sincerely do their best to help. Only when the new teams joined, the members at the outermost layer would, only then could he reduce the pressure he had to face. In addition, Li Nao's method could also guarantee the benefits of the Spirit Chi professionals that relied on him first. Only in this way could Li Nao win over people's hearts. Currently, his team had gathered more than 20,000 people. In a small team of 50 to 60 people, Li Nao could kill the chicken to warn the monkey. However, in a crowd of more than 20,000 people, it was inappropriate to do so. Who knew if there was anyone strong enough here? He was also an expert who could restrain him. Moreover, if he was too arrogant, there was a high chance that he would be ganged up on. 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. As long as the large team he led could survive, he would not hesitate. He, who was in the core region, wanted to squeeze into the top 10. There shouldn't be any problems. However, when he saw the huge yellow sand castle that suddenly appeared in the sky, he felt a chill run down his spine. Li Nao's expression was a bit stunned. He had never heard of any dimensional creature that looked like this and could control sand. However, if this was caused by a spirit chi professional, then it would be impossible. How powerful was this spirit chi professional? Also, why didn't the exotic beast swarm attack Yellow Sand Castle? The outer circle members had been working hard for half a day, and their stomachs were rumbling with hunger, but they did not even have the chance to eat a mouthful of water or a mouthful of rice. Their mentality was blown up. This Yellow Sand Castle had better not be an enemy. Everyone was now in a group. Otherwise, if it fell from the sky, it would be able to crush at least 5,000 to 6,000 people. At this moment, the audience was speechless as they looked at the Yellow Sand Castle. It had been flying for an entire day. The more they looked, the more they felt that Black was a tourist who had mistakenly entered the 100 sequence test. No matter how shocking this Yellow Sand Castle was. After watching for a long time, it would be boring. However, the examinees who participated in the test didn't have an omniscient view. They didn't know anything. At this moment, the examinees who were standing beside Li Nao. The examinees who were appointed by Li Nao to manage asked, "Big Brother Li, why don't we try attacking this Yellow Sand Castle and see what exactly it is?" "Boss, I feel that before this Yellow Sand Castle makes a move on us, let's not bother about it. After all, the test didn't mention the Yellow Sand Castle, and it doesn't look like it was created by a dimensional creature." Li Nao took a deep breath when he heard that. He was standing in the core region. No matter how ferocious the exotic beast swarm was, it wouldn't threaten his safety. However, this Yellow Sand Castle could fly in the sky. If it flew all the way here and stopped above his head, then he would be in a very passive position. Just as Li Nao was about to give the order to probe the Yellow Sand Castle, an examinee with a broken elbow ran over and said anxiously, "Boss, there are a few Class 4 alien insects in the insect swarm at the outermost west side. A few Class 4 alien insects have mixed into the insect swarm at the outermost west side. The insect swarm in that direction should be a Class 2 insect swarm. We need to send reinforcements in that direction. Otherwise, the number of people over there will be decreasing too quickly." Li Nao lifted his head and took a glance at the Yellow Sand Castle. He made a decision in his heart. In the end, Li Nao decided to send reinforcements to the outermost west side team. Li Nao's character had already been verified when he was selected as a Radiance 100 sequence member. Li Nao was more scheming. But now, he was the leader of the team. He had to be responsible for the team first. As for the Yellow Sand Castle, he would wait until something happened. Otherwise, if a direction was exhausted by the exotic beast swarm and couldn't receive reinforcements, the others in this direction would be fearful and lose confidence. It would lower their resistance. There might be over 20,000 members in the team now. However, only one day had passed. The next 2 days were the highlight of the event. Li Nao said to the few people beside him, "Go and scout the various directions around the camp and find out the strength of the exotic beast swarm we are facing. Then, according to the actual situation, transfer a portion of the healing-type spirit chi professionals. Bring them to the outermost west side first and treat the injured." Lin Yuan was in the Yellow Sand Castle and looking at the defensive fortifications formed by the examinees in the core region. He was slightly surprised. Then, he revealed an expression of approval. Gao Feng took a glance at the core region and said, "The person leading the team is rather capable. The defensive fortifications are stacked in the shape of an astrolabe, and there are people from other regions in the middle. The fortifications are stacked in the shape of an astrolabe. In the middle, there are people from other areas, and there are straight paths in all directions. We'll be able to provide immediate and effective reinforcements. But from the looks of it, this team's aerial defense is rather weak." Chapter 1658. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded. One person had the ability to manage a team of 500 people. And the ability to manage a team of 2,000 people. It was a completely different situation. Managing 20,000 people in a short period of time. Making others believe in him. He had to be able to see the big picture. Lin Yuan realized that the High Lords who arranged this 100-sequence test. They were definitely overexerting themselves. Among the 5 major dimensional rifts, there were 2 types of dimensional rifts with the strongest offensive and mobility capabilities. One was the Abyss Dimensional Rift, and the other was the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift. The Demon Tide was individually strong. The Insect Tide was extremely numerous. The Abyss Demons and Alien Insects were extremely adept at running. They were the lifeforms that hunted for food at all times. They were unlike the swamp lifeforms, underground lifeforms, and water world lifeforms. They were extremely dependent on the environment. Unless they encountered a stimulus, they did not like to expand in a direction that was not suitable for their survival. If the demons and alien insects did not encounter each other, they would also fight. They would constantly whittle down each other's numbers. This test would definitely end in less than 2 days. Just like what Gao Feng said, the Pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rifts, be it the Abyss Dimensional Rift or the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift. There would be a batch of dimensional lifeforms with the ability to fly. Among the candidates, there were only a few who had flying phase. They were demons and alien insects on the gold and platinum levels who could fly. The candidates were extremely difficult to deal with. They could only wait for these flying insects and demons to get close. Only then could the phase on the ground attack them. But this kind of attack undoubtedly brought about a lot of losses to the team. Lin Yuan felt that if these candidates wanted to rely on this method to last for 3 days, it should not be possible. At the end of the 2nd day, the strength of the alien beast tide would reach its peak. Lin Yuan was slightly doubtful. This test was indeed a bit too difficult. Why did a test of survival and human nature have to be so difficult? What Lin Yuan did not know was that while he was doubtful, Lu Wensheng, who was standing on the golden stone pillar, was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a place to hide. Ji Changdang also shrunk his neck, and his expression was not very good. He did not care about Lu Wensheng's stare. Night Leaning Moon could not help but ask Lu Wensheng. Lu Wensheng, how did you do this test? If I remember correctly, you didn't specify 5-dimensional rifts, but 4 of each. Why have they all become alien insect dimensional rifts and demon dimensional rifts? When you made the suggestion, I already said that the content of the test was a little difficult. Not only did you not change, you even became worse. What do you mean by that? Lu Wensheng's initial plan was to open 20-dimensional rifts, but it was different. 10 peak level 1 and 10 peak level 2. However, opening 5 at the same time was completely different from opening 2 at the same time. 5 types of dimensional rifts opened at the same time. After the 5 types of exotic beast swarms met each other, they would attack each other spontaneously. As a result, the pressure the examinees faced against the exotic beast horde would be several times less than it was now. But now, when the insect swarms met, they would instantly merge. It was the same with the Devil Tide. Both sides had such a large base. Even if there was a collision, only the alien insects and demons at the outermost layer would be killed. It would not affect the movement of the insect swarm and the devil swarm. This allowed the insect swarm and demon swarm to charge at the examinees who had set up their defenses in the center without slowing down. After hearing Night Leaning Moon's words, Lu Wensheng first apologized. He reflected on himself very seriously. Indeed, the questions I've set this time are a bit difficult. I admit that it was my problem. But changing the 5 types of dimensional rifts into 2 was not my idea. It was Ji Changding's idea. Lu Wensheng's words caused the other 11 abyssals to look at him. All of their gazes landed on Ji Changdang. When Ji Changdang heard this, he felt extremely wronged. Ji Changdang first looked at the Moon Empress with a fawning look. He then glared at Cicada Cry. Cicada Cry, why is your disciple participating in the Radiance 100 sequence so useless? Didn't you say that he contracted the strongest support type sacred source life form? Cicada Ming was stunned for a moment. He looked at Ji Changdang with a strange gaze. The Moon Empress disciple is also participating in the 100 sequence test. Weren't you praising him quite happily before? Why are you shooting at me now that there's a problem? My disciple is a pure support type. It's not like you don't know. Furthermore, Lu Wenxing's test was originally a little difficult. Now that you've messed with it, looking at the current situation, there might not even be a need for the third day. The test would be over. However, such a test did not have much meaning. The alien beast tide was just an alchemy stone. The real battle for the 100th sequence would be decided. It also had to be the competition between the members. If the 100th sequence test ended hastily, the first reform would also be declared a failure. The Moon Empress seemed to be the one who proposed this change. The Moon Empress looked up at the yellow sand castle in the sky. Her expression did not change at all. After a while, the Moon Empress said in a cold tone, "This test will definitely last for 3 days. This reform will definitely not end in failure." The other 12 abyssals heard the Moon Empress words. For a moment, they did not understand what the Moon Empress meant. At this moment, the examinees in the core area who were fighting against the alien beast tide and insect tide, suddenly, their eyes widened. They let out a series of shocked exclamations. The originally frenzied insect tide and demon tide suddenly became chaotic. The ground seemed to have turned into a quagmire. All of a sudden, the abyss devils and alien insects seemed to shrink. They continuously sank into the ground. When these alien insects and demons completely disappeared, everyone was shocked to find out, except for the area where they had built their positions. As far as the eye could see, the ground had all turned into boiling quicksand. The demons and alien insects were fighting to climb out of the quicksand. However, they did not gain anything and were sunk to a position 50 meters underground by the yellow sand. They were firmly pinned down by the weight of the sand and could not move at all. Finally, they suffocated to death. This scene was like a miracle to all the examinees. At this moment, Lin Yuan, who had created this miracle, had already overdrawn his spirit chi and was sitting in the yellow sand castle. Even though Lin Yuan had used spirit injection on himself. The 2 Diamond X/Fantasy V Spirit Spring Lilies were also constantly pouring spirit chi into Lin Yuan's body. However, Lin Yuan did not even have the strength to stand up due to the overdraft of spirit chi. Lin Yuan thought to himself. Without opening the spirit chi imprint, he activated the source sand on a large scale. Even though all of this was just the instinct of the source sand. He was a B-rank spirit chi professional, and the amount of spirit chi in his body. It was really not enough. At this moment, the Moon Empress' mouth revealed a trace of a smile. "Because my disciple is here." Chapter 1659. Hearing the Moon Empress' words. The other majesties could feel the Moon Empress' deep trust in Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress had not said these words after Lin Yuan had taken action. Instead, the Moon Empress had already expressed her intentions before Lin Yuan took action. This meant that from the Moon Empress' point of view, Lin Yuan himself would correct the 100 sequence assessment. Lu Wenxing asked doubtfully. "Moon Empress, did you tell your disciple about this situation in advance?" The Moon Empress shook her head. He said. "Just like when our Radiance envoys were at the Myriad Nations Convention. When the situation changes, people always have to be flexible. Xiao Yuan prioritizes the 100 sequence assessment this time, which is why he used this method to relieve the pressure on the other candidates. He didn't even hesitate to expose a part of his strength. Since little Yuan has decided to do this, the entire test will definitely have a good result." At this point, the Moon Empress didn't say anything else. The other High Lords heard the Moon Empress' words. From the Moon Empress' words, one could sense her trust and admiration for Lin Yuan. Given the Moon Empress' personality, even if it was her own disciple, she wouldn't be able to do anything about it. It would be very difficult to praise him. But now, the Moon Empress had performed in such a manner. This meant that the Moon Empress was extremely satisfied with her disciple. Indeed. The Moon Empress had only accepted disciples for a total of 9 months. During these 9 months, the Moon Empress disciple had caused too many major incidents. Among them, he had even protected the lives of tens of thousands of radiant sex creation masters. It protected Hui Yao's roots. If they were to guard a millstone town under the insect tide, it could only show the heroic actions of the Moon Empress disciple. What he had done afterwards showed that the Moon Empress disciple had a deep sense of responsibility toward Hui Yao. It was even possible that among the previous generation of Radiance envoys, some people's contributions to Hui Yao couldn't even compare to Lin Yuan. The High Lords couldn't help but praise Lin Yuan one after another. Lu Yifan, who was the only one standing on the colorful stone pillar, was surprised by Black's performance. As he recalled the words of his junior brother and he, a smile appeared on his face. It could be said that any powerful spirit chi professional must have a competitive spirit. Among people of the same generation, even if they were teammates, they would also compare themselves to each other. Everyone was constantly improving their strength, afraid of being left behind by their teammates. He was facing a genius of the younger generation before he became a Radiance envoy. Lu Yifan might feel a sense of pressure. But now, he had been a Radiance envoy for so long. Lu Yifan understood the importance of legacies to the Federation. The stronger Lin Yuan's generation was, the more prosperous Hui Yao's legacy would be. Once a federation has a situation where the new and old generations can't take over, it was easy to be targeted. It could be said that Lin Yuan's current actions were extremely powerful. This completely attracted the attention of the Azure Federation and the Freedom Federation's envoys. Although he couldn't see Lin Yuan's Gao Feng, who was inside the yellow sand castle, Gao Feng's face was pale. However, the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission, which had been plotting against them, decided to take a good look. Black was said to be the top genius of the Radiance Federation's younger generation. What was so special about it? This sudden surge of yellow sand covered a large area. It covered an area of 5,000 square kilometers. Even a myth-breed Fae would not be able to launch such a large-scale attack. But this attack looked too weak. It mainly relied on the sinking ability of the yellow sand. It was like simulating a quicksand vortex in a desert environment. Rank 4 alien insects and demons relied on their physical strength. They could struggle in the quicksand vortex for a long time. Because there was no point to hold on to, they would sink. This level of attack was very easy to be targeted. The Freedom 100 was obviously not enough to deal with such an opponent. However, Hui Yao would not only be facing the Freedom 100. It would be Yan Ling, Kai Hua, and Yu Changjian. These three were almost the next Freedom envoys. The Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission had already set the target of the battle as Black. They were going to study Black's situation. On the Azure Federation's side, Yin Lin had already confirmed the specific location of the lion. The person in the yellow sand castle was the lion. Yin Lin's eyes were filled with splendor. At the same time, she was thinking about how to complete the lion's plan. Drag all the people of the Freedom Federation into the water. As a member of the Azure Federation, Yin Lin had been blind before. Her understanding of the world was incomplete. It could be said that her good impression of the Radiance Federation was all from Lin Yuan. Otherwise, Yin Lin would not have any feelings for the Radiance Federation. Lin Yuan was going to take risks for the Radiance Federation and fight against the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. To deal with the Freedom Federation's conspiracy. The outcome of this battle would either be Lin Yuan's life or the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission member's death. Or Lin Yuan's death and the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission member's life. No matter what happened, the final outcome would definitely be these two. Yin Lin decided that she might as well go all out. It would also make Lin Yuan's risk even more meaningful. Thinking about this, Yin Lin made a decision in her heart. Lan Sun, who was sitting beside Yin Lin, noticed Yin Lin's abnormal expression. He asked Yin Lin, "Lord Azure Envoy, do you have any special discoveries or are you not feeling well?" Yin Lin turned around and said to Lan Sun in a serious tone, Teacher, in a while, after the Radiance 100 sequence selection. No matter what decision I make, you have to support me. Lan Sun heard this and knew what Yin Lin was planning. After all, Yin Lin and the Moon Empress disciple had boarded the Fey carriage together. Lan Sun already knew. The Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission had a conspiracy against the Radiance Federation. It was not a secret to him. Yin Lin asked him to support her. Yin Lin should have already decided to stand on the Radiance Federation's side. Lan Sun naturally had no opinion on this. This was because if one had to choose a side to stand on, it should be Yin Lin, the Azure Envoy, who had the final say. Lan Sun nodded to Yin Lin and said, I will fully support Lord Azure Envoy's order. Lan Sun didn't know at this moment. His nod had led to such a crazy decision. On the golden stone pillar where the 100 sequence was located, every 100 sequence member was looking at the scene in the test space with a different expression. Liang, who had been beaten to the 7th position, couldn't help but exclaim. If Black had done something like this during the Radiance 100 sequence ranking, I reckon I will have to drop one more position to the 8th position. Shirsu, who was beside Liang, said. Be confident, you will definitely be ranked 8th. Just this move alone, apart from the 2 people in front, I'm afraid no one will be able to withstand it. I've teamed up with Black before. Black's yellow sand is very agile. He can accurately operate and block attacks for everyone in a crowd of 10,000. Chapter 1660. In order to eliminate the alien insects, the yellow sand area has been expanded to 5,000 square kilometers. But our ranking venue is only 1 square kilometer. By then, the entire venue will definitely turn into quicksand. The intensity of the quicksand will definitely not be on the same level as it is now. The woman, who had managed to maintain her ranking with great difficulty and was currently ranked 89th in the Radiance 100 sequence, spoke up. You can't look at it like that. Black sand elemental life form also needs time to create sand. As soon as the woman finished her words, Zhao Xiaochun retorted. Previously, when Black was flying, you already saw that Black was using a skill to recover his spiritual power. Anyone who wants to change the venue needs time. We are stepping on the ground. The sand elemental is a variant of the earth elemental and can be directly transformed by the earth elemental. Black is fighting on land with this sand elemental life form, which is no different from me and Long Tao fighting in the sea. Therefore, changing the terrain in the test space will definitely be faster for Black. Besides, this is just one of Black's phase. I agree with Shirsu's point of view. Black can at least be ranked 3rd. Or even higher. But to be honest, Black is growing really fast. I seriously suspect that Black is deliberately preserving his strength before. Black sand elemental life form is more restrained against Lu Jie's insect swarm. The insect swarm's land combat power, the flesh-mincing blade insects, basically has no room to show off. Listening to the discussions around him, Yi Zichen frowned. Lu Jie was standing on the Radiance 100 sequence's first golden stone pillar. He had the same bright smile on his face as when the insect queen recovered from the near-death state. As Lin Yuan's retainer knight. Lin Yuan was humiliated, and Lu Jie was willing to defend with his life. Lin Yuan was praised, and Lu Jie felt honored. Others might not know, but Lu Jie knew very well how Lin Yuan had come along the way. It could be said that Lin Yuan had been growing rapidly. At the same time, he had been hiding his strength. Even as Lin Yuan's retainer knight, Lu Jie did not know how strong Lin Yuan was. Until the battle between Lin Yuan and Zhong Zhe at the Nyx assembly. Only then did Lu Jie understand Lin Yuan's hidden combat power. It made Jie feel an unprecedented sense of urgency in his heart. It could be said that the other Radiance 100 sequence members were looking up to him. He had been painstakingly following Lin Yuan's footsteps. As for his own growth, be it the source-type life-form cocoon of evolution. Furthermore, the insect queen had mutated under the effects of the Blade Queen Bee's mental toxin. Obtained the ability to control insect-type carcinoma phase. or the cocoon demon embryos that he had just obtained. His growth could be said to be thanks to Lin Yuan. Lu Jie's only wish in this life was to protect Lin Yuan for the rest of his life. They would fight alongside Lin Yuan until the end of their lives. Perhaps at that time, he would be so dazzling that he could dazzle the entire origin world. I just need to be a star by Lin Yuan sighed to set off his brilliance. Originally, the viewers on Star Web were scolding him for participating in the 100-sequence assessment. It was like a vacation. The scene that had just happened made everyone who had such a thought. All of them shut their mouths. On the Star Web, Black's popularity exploded. The audience watched the assessment of the 100 sequence for a whole day. His interest was slowly diminishing. When the core region faced the bug tide, the audience was terrified. But after fighting for a few hours, the situation was still the same. It was like a person repeatedly playing a tower defense game for a few hours. His interest would always diminish. The Star Web traffic didn't decrease by much. But there were indeed a lot of people logging out of Star Web. After eating and sleeping. They didn't log on immediately. It was no wonder. In the assessment venue, the candidates participating in the assessment needed to eat. They might even be tired for a whole day. When someone was changing shifts, they would let their companions help them watch for a while. They would take a nap for 1 or 2 hours to replenish their stamina. The bullet screen in the major live streaming rooms wasn't as crazy as it was at the beginning. Lu Shuang, who was originally live streaming, couldn't even see the bullet screen clearly. But now, there were times when a bullet screen, it could stay on the screen for more than a second. But in the assessment venue, the surging yellow sand had caused a shocking change. It had once again awakened the enthusiasm and vitality of the audience. Hee hee, ah. My husband is so awesome. I won't be a male mother in the future. Black, please come and spar with me quickly. Naming is so difficult, fuck. What did I see? So many alien insects and demons were wiped out. How did Black do it? Silence, what's going on? Black killed all the alien insects and demons? Why do I feel that Black is so much like an NPC in the assessment? Things remain the same, but people change. I think the audience upstairs knows the truth. Black looks like an NPC. I previously said that the person Black brought along would definitely become a 100-sequence member. My guess was right. Black has the ability to directly choose 9 people and guarantee entry into the 100-sequence. Agate Orange, don't talk nonsense. Gao Feng is the young master of a top faction. Even if he isn't necessarily stronger than Black, he doesn't need someone to bring him along if he wants to become a 100-sequence member. Lu Shuang didn't have the right to speak about the source sand. After all, Black hadn't used the source sand when fighting against Lu Shuang. However, Poison Beauty had something to say. This was because Poison Beauty had once been tightly gripped by Huang Sha's large hand. Then she had sunk into the quicksand. Poison Beauty was most familiar with the suffocating feeling of the quicksand squirming and squeezing. The discussion on Star Web was in full swing, but Lin Yuan realized he couldn't control the current situation by relying on the source sand alone. Even if Gao Feng was constantly restoring his spiritual power. At the same time, he was injecting spiritual power into the source sand. If he wanted to use the source sand to control the 10 pinnacle class 1-dimensional rifts and the 10 pinnacle class 2-dimensional rifts, it would be too much. It was simply too difficult. The best way was to use Red Thorn. This was because Red Thorn needed an energy supply to grow the sea of flowers. It was the alien insect's flesh. The alien insect's flesh was the best source of energy supply for the sea of flowers. There was no need for Lin Yuan to provide additional spiritual power. However, the source sand was different. Fortunately, with the yellow sand castle's cover, the people outside couldn't see the situation inside. Lin Yuan simply waved his hand and summoned Red Thorn. After Lin Yuan summoned Red Thorn, it flew around him twice. Then, it forcefully kissed Lin Yuan's face with its bright red lips. It let out a crisp sound. Lin Yuan's loving interaction with the fairy source-type life form. Gao Feng didn't find it strange. The fairy source-type lifeform's emotions were more abundant than ordinary fays. Gao Feng, who was looking at Red Thorn, asked himself more than once. What did I see? Three pairs of wings? Chapter 1661. The spiritual power in Lin Yuan's body was exhausted. However, the source sand's tumbling did not stop. As the spirit spring lily spat out a stream of spiritual power, it poured into the source sand's body. The source sand that had stopped producing sand made the sea of sand jump. It was not difficult. However, the jumping of the sea of sand was for the abyss demons and alien insects. There was no longer a strong restraining force. Normal and elite demons and alien insects. After walking 100 meters, they would sink into the sea of sand. However, Class 1 alien insects, which were comparable to bronze phase, could effortlessly wade on the sea of sand. However, their speed was extremely slow. In order to resist the sinking of the sand flow, a Class 1 alien insect or demon could only move a few dozen meters per minute. The Level 2 alien insects and demons with silver tier strength were not much faster. The limit of a minute was about 300 meters per minute. It was not as fast as an ordinary person's running limit. However, Class 3 and 4 alien insects and demons could almost ignore the influence of the yellow sand on their bodies. They could move freely in the sea of sand. However, the unforeseen event that had just happened was too shocking. The demons and alien insects at the edge of the quicksand. They saw with their own eyes that their own kind in front of them had fallen into the quicksand vortex. They were ruthlessly devoured by the quicksand vortex. The powerful alien insects and demons could rule the insect tide and demon tide. The Class 4 demons and alien insects with platinum strength already had a certain level of intelligence. These Class 4 demons and alien insects hissed. They hurriedly stopped the team that they could control. However, due to the consecutive opening of the pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rift, there were many Class 4 demons and alien insects that were spewing out. This caused the Class 4 demons and alien insects in front to stop their pace. However, the demons and alien insects at the back did not know and rushed forward. They pushed the demons and alien insects in front of them into the yellow sand. In the yellow sand, the demons and alien insects with the strength of Class 1 and above kept their lives. Those below Class 1 had all become corpses buried in the yellow sand. In the end, the alien beast tide was forcibly stopped. At the same time, the crowded environment caused the alien insects and demons to have a fierce fight. This scene was seen by Lin Yuan. It was also seen by the examinees in the core area who were responsible for scouting the environment. The moment they got the information, the Spirit Chi professionals who were in charge of scouting reported the situation to the Spirit Chi sect. He reported everything to Li Nao. He understood that the exotic beast horde had been forced to stop at the edge of the desert by the quicksand. For the time being, there was no clear action. Li Nao immediately said to the candidates who were waiting around him. The 200 of you are the team leaders that I have specially selected. Each person is in charge of 100 people on a furrow. Now, go and organize people to reinforce the fortifications of the territory. Go to the yellow sand and dig out those insects and abyssal demons. Remove the shell of the alien insect and the bone horn of the abyssal demon. We might as well use these things to strengthen the defense of the territory. In addition, each team will send out 20 people. A total of 4,000 people will work together. Hurry up and gather the other teams heading towards the central area. The beast tide hasn't passed through the sea of sand yet. But look at the pulsation of the sea of sand. It has weakened quite a bit. The pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rifts are still opening. Sooner or later, the alien insects and demons will form an exotic beast tide and launch a great counterattack on us. The more time we have to prepare, the larger the scale of the exotic beast swarm we have to deal with will be. Everyone, we mustn't let down our guard at this time. Mobilize all the healing-type spirit chi professionals and prioritize healing phase with support-type and healing abilities. For the time being, push down the priority of power offense-type phase. In such a large-scale battle, the healing-type spirit chi professionals were the most popular with the least number of people. The support-type spirit chi professionals had extremely strong functionality. In terms of support, it was often not one-on-one support. Instead, a single person could enhance a group of people. Therefore, they had to consider the entire team. Prioritizing the benefits of the support-type spirit chi professionals was undoubtedly the best choice. Although this method was a little unfair. In a battle, they had to rely on the support-type spirit chi professionals and the power offense-type spirit chi professionals. Usually, there wouldn't be a lot of complaints. This was because they had the help of a good support-type spirit chi professional. The main targets of benefit were the power offense-type spirit chi professionals who were in battle. Even the power offense-type spirit chi professionals often had to rely on the protection. Under Li Nao's command, the team quickly took action. In this regard, the Star Web netizens gave a high evaluation. Nicholas Zhangqi, Li Nao's ability to adapt to the situation is too strong. Previously, I felt that Li Nao's fortifications were very well constructed. Now, it seems that if Li Nao is given some time to prepare, the majority of the troops in the central region will definitely be able to last for 3 days. Going to Beijing, I also think that Li Nao is very powerful. Everyone is here for the assessment. Not only did Li Nao stand out from the rest, but he also managed to grasp the hearts of the people in just 2 days. Although the newcomers are still not convinced by Li Nao, the veterans who have followed Li Nao for more than a day have almost completely obeyed Li Nao's commands. This should be the charisma of a person. When Dao Sansheng, you guys keep praising Li Nao, but why do I feel that compared to Black, Li Nao is really not good enough? If it wasn't for Black, the team of 20,000 would have been reduced to less than 16,000 by now under the continuous charge of the exotic beast swarm. Playboy Little Radish, I don't know why I want to laugh so much. Li Nao probably didn't know that the yellow sand castle in the sky and the large area of quicksand were caused by Black. He actually asked people to dig the sand. He dug out those alien insects and demons to build the fortifications. No matter how beautiful Li Nao's performance was on Star Web, the most discussed was still Black, who had just created a big scene. Poison Beauty and Lu Shuang no longer spoke. They just kept talking about Black. Black had shown such strength, and everyone knew that he was powerful. Then, he talked about Black all the time. It could be said that with just this move alone, Black was already famous in the Radiance. Black's circle of attention was mainly focused on his heroic deeds. Among the group of people who were paying attention to the Star Web duel. But now, after passing this Radiance 100 sequence test, Black broke through the circle. He entered the eyes of almost all the Radiance citizens. He had become a real household star in the Radiance 100 sequence. Chapter 1662. At this moment, Lu Wenxing was standing on the golden stone pillar. Based on Li Nao's performance for more than a day, he said. Previously, I really didn't see that Li Nao had this talent. It said that heroes are born out of time. This assessment has allowed me to see Li Nao's multifaceted nature that I have never had the chance to show before. Night Leaning Moon also praised him. Li Nao can come to the spirit guards in the future. Nurture him until he has the qualifications to become a deputy envoy. In addition, if Cicada Cry also thinks highly of Li Nao, he can train Li Nao. Let's see if Li Nao is qualified to be the candidate consul of each city. At this moment, he was doing his best to command the troops. Li Nao, who had completed the fortification, didn't know. Because of his performance, he had entered the eyes of the majesties. Gao Feng stared blankly, flapping his wings. Red Thorn stopped in front of Lin Yuan's forehead and kept talking. Lin Yuan, Red Thorn has not seen you in a long time. Did you call Red Thorn out this time to play with Red Thorn or to beat up the bad guys? Fairy source-type lifeforms were simply too rare. Therefore, for most spirit chi professionals, fairies were considered source-type lifeforms. They were all very unfamiliar. Gao Feng came from a top faction and had naturally heard of fairy source-type lifeforms. However, Gao Feng did not have any fairy source-type lifeforms. There had always been rumors that among all source-type lifeforms, fairy source-type lifeforms had the highest intelligence. When it sprouted a pair of wings, it was no different from a normal person's intelligence. When he sprouted 2 pairs of wings, he had already surpassed ordinary people. Gao Feng had heard of fairy source-type lifeforms with 3 pairs of wings. However, according to common sense, the 6-winged demon was a 6-winged demon. His strength should have risen to the level of a creation breed. Gao Feng had once seen his master, Cicada, summon a green creature. A 6-winged fairy with long hair that reached her ankles. Gao Feng wasn't a creation master and couldn't see anything. However, the feeling the cicada chirping 6-winged demon gave Gao Feng was completely different from the feeling Red Thorn gave him. His master Chan Ming's 6-winged demon was clearly stronger. However, Gao Feng felt that the green vine in front of him had red eyes. A cold and beautiful fairy dressed in a strange flowery dress. It had to be more honorable. Gao Feng had chatted with Lin Yuan along the way. They knew that Lin Yuan was still a B-rank spirit chi professional. This was another important reason why Gao Feng was shocked. It was already very surprising that Lin Yuan possessed the 6-winged demon. This 6-winged demon had gained 6 wings and it was a fantasy breed. It had already broken people's hearts. It was common knowledge regarding fairy source-type lifeforms. Gao Feng thought to himself. Fortunately, the yellow sand castle could block Red Thorn. Otherwise, the Freedom Federation's envoy would know that Lin Yuan had a 6-winged demon. To Lin Yuan, the 6-winged demon was nothing. It could be used as a trump card. If there was a 2-winged or 4-winged fairy in the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission, he didn't even need to summon Red Thorn. He only needed to release Red Thorn's aura. The suppressive power of the bloodline could make a 2-winged Yao or 4-winged Yao lose their ability to fight. Upon hearing Red Thorn's words, Lin Yuan replied seriously. Red Thorn, what we are going to do next is very important. Listen to me, you need to hatch some spore chambers first. I will let the source sand transport these spore chambers to the corresponding positions. Then, use the spore chambers to spit out spores and form a few sea of flowers according to the arrangement of the spore chambers. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's instructions, Red Thorn felt that Lin Yuan's task wasn't difficult. It didn't summon the Mouth of Relinquish. The Mouth of Relinquish was Red Thorn's main body. With the Mouth of Relinquish, it could use its abilities through the Mouth of Relinquish. It could guarantee 100% of its power. Now, Red Thorn would use its own abilities. It might not be able to match the speed of the Mouth of Relinquish. However, things like spraying spores and hatching spore chambers, Red Thorn could do it easily. Red Thorn's vine-like green hair fluttered without any wind. Among the hair, grayish-green spores that looked like a light mist were scattered. These spores grew rapidly in the yellow sand castle. In a short while, apart from the position left for Lin Yuan and Gao Feng, the other positions were filled with miniature spore chambers that were half the height of a person. After the spore cavity of these child ramets grew out, the spore cavity grew out. The quicksand in the yellow sand castle suddenly became restless. The yellow sand swallowed these spore chambers that had just grown out. Through the constantly jumping sand column below, these spore chambers were all transported from the yellow sand castle to the quicksand. Lin Yuan circulated the spiritual power that he had just recovered. The speed of the source sand's surging suddenly increased. The sand flow continuously produced these spore chambers in the yellow sand castle. They were buried everywhere in the sea of sand. Immediately after, Red Thorn commanded the spore chambers that the child ramets had specially formed. According to Lin Yuan's request, it sprayed out the spores. In order to allow the spores to quickly take root in the sea of sand. For this, Red Thorn used 14 eyes of relinquish in a row. The Star Web viewers suddenly realized that there were rows of dark green plants growing in an extremely regular pattern in the sea of sand. These vine-like plants were very special. They had a certain steel color. At a glance, each vine was very tough. Red Thorn originally wanted to use more eyes of relinquish. However, it was stopped by Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan said to Red Thorn, "Red Thorn, we need to hold on for at least 1.5 days in this sea of flowers. You don't have to use the eyes of relinquish first. There are many corpses of demons and alien insects below the source sand. I'll send the corpses of these demons and insects to your sea of flowers through the source sand. When the nibbling vines pass through, the mouthparts on the tentacles will scrape as much flesh as possible. Then, through the flesh of these alien insects and demons, the scale of the sea of flowers will be rapidly developed." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Red Thorn hurriedly and obediently commanded the nibbling vines to extend its tentacles into the ground. It found that there were indeed a large number of corpses of demons and alien insects being transported to its feet. Red Thorn itself was a little glutton. Red Thorn naturally would not refuse the food that Lin Yuan had specially delivered to its mouth. Even if Red Thorn was no longer interested in the flesh of dimensional lifeforms below Class 5. The key was that these things were given to it by Lin Yuan. The nibbling vines first picked the weaker alien insects and demons to eat. With the supply of these alien insects and demon corpses, the area and speed of the sea of flowers rapidly increased. Soon, the sea of flowers formed by the various spore chambers were connected. When the Star Web netizens saw this scene, they immediately recalled when they first heard about Black. That was the content left in their memories. The sea of flowers that instantly spread out could be called Black Signature. Chapter 1663. Back in Millstone Town, Black had used this sinister and terrifying sea of flowers. Upholding Radiance's glory, it had paved the hope of life. It had protected a human town that had automatically formed. This incident had been praised on Star Web. However, due to the dimensional rift, there was no way to record the video. What was heard was often the oral accounts of the Millstone Town residents. Back then, the residents of Millstone Town had vowed. Black's Fae was below Silver. However, they said that this Fae could use its own power to block the insect tide. It had blocked the insect tide from the Pinnacle Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift. This was obviously beyond the scope of common sense. Hence, on Star Web, there were many people who didn't believe this. Perhaps Black had indeed used the Sea of Flowers to protect Millstone Town. It had made a great contribution. However, it was impossible to be so exaggerated. Black was originally the savior of the Millstone Town residents. However, after mentioning Black's feat that night, it was not understood by others. It was even treated as hype. This caused the Millstone Town residents to be anxious. They hurriedly made more comments and did not even hesitate to use the Ascending Dragon city guards. They wanted to use this to prove that what they said was true. This was because the Ascending Dragon guards that had rushed over had also witnessed this sea of flowers. However, as a city guard, it was impossible to prove some kind of unofficial private comments on a place like Star Web. Many people did not believe that Black could use a plant-type source-type life form that was below Silver. It had blocked the insect tide from the Pinnacle Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift. However, they still recognized Black's identity as a young hero. After all, not everyone could bravely stand up in times of danger. Later on, in the Star Web duel, Black had also used Red Thorn. However, the tower climbing duel was too small. The size of the entire field was only 200 meters x 200 meters. Even if Red Thorn spread out the sea of flowers in such a small area, it would definitely be greatly restricted. In essence, Red Thorn's Sea of Flowers was a kind of continuous area attack. Later on, when Red Thorn became a silver/fantasy breed, Lin Yuan did not let Red Thorn appear on Star Web again. Now, those people who had doubted how Black would use Red Thorn to resist the insect tide, they felt like they had been slapped in the face. These Sea of Flowers seemed to have a purpose as they were connected vertically. With the central stronghold as the core, 8 long ribbons of the Sea of Flowers were formed. The audience did not understand the significance of Black's current cooking, because the audience didn't even notice. The Radiance 100 sequences test this time was a little too difficult. On the other hand, the eyes of the sovereign standing on the golden pillars lit up. Lu Wenqing said, "Black source-type life form is really special. Look, the vines of these plants are all reaching into the yellow sand, searching for something. The vines have a lot of sharp teeth. When these vines pull out the yellow sand, they bring along a lot of minced meat. Some of the minced meat was mixed with skeletons and the dark red skin of demons. It's obvious that it has formed an alliance with the source sand. I used the corpses of the evil demons and alien insects buried by the source sand as an energy source. These 8 strips of flowers will act as a buffer. When the exotic beast swarm arrives, they'll be automatically split into 9 parts. The Sea of Flowers belt can automatically kill off a portion of the beast tide. It's the same as reducing the pressure on the other examinees. In addition, these 9 strips of Sea of Flowers belt are 1 kilometer away from the core area. After the alien insects and evil demons come out of these 9 areas and converge, there will definitely be another conflict. As long as Black is willing to control it, there won't be any problem for this test to last for more than 3 days." While speaking, Lu Wenqing was glad that there was Black. In his heart, he felt that all of this was too ridiculous. This test seemed to be a little too difficult for tens of thousands of examinees. Because of the special characteristics of Black's 2-phase, it was actually solved. It was just that Black was placed here alone. Black relied on the Sea of Flowers to form a defensive fortification. It might be able to last for 3 days. Lu Wenqing had observed the vines that grew out of the Sea of Flowers, although he couldn't see the specific grade. However, there was a vine that grew thicker and dragged out a class 4 horned demon from the Sea of Sand. After entangling the horned demon, apart from its pair of long horns, it wasn't eaten. The flesh and bones of the horned demon were all sucked into the sharp teeth below the vines. A vine could break through the defense of a class 4 horned demon. It had to be at least on the platinum level. Moreover, after this vine devoured the level 4 horned demon, it became even more terrifying. It had become a little thicker. This meant that this plant could not only grow by absorbing energy from flesh and blood. He could also use it to strengthen himself. Lu Wenqing found it hard to imagine what would happen if this source-type life form lost control and was thrown into a dimensional world. As long as he was given enough time, he would not be able to do anything. He didn't want to be discovered by the rulers of the other dimensional worlds. In a situation where they couldn't find the mother plant, the entire dimensional world would be devoured by these vines. Li Su, who was with the Freedom Envoys, said to Yu Changjian, "Long Sword, Black will be one of your targets this time. Are you prepared?" Yu Changjian was Li Su's caretaker. Therefore, ever since Li Su appeared, Yu Changjian had left his original position. He stood respectfully beside Li Su. Upon hearing Li Su's question, Yu Changjian hurriedly replied, "Don't worry, Your Holiness. Yan Ling, Kai Hua, and I have a way to deal with this Sea of Flowers before it takes form. The cooperation of the 3 sacred source lifeforms has reached the 2nd stage. It's impossible for us to lose." At this point, Yu Changjian glanced at Qian Yu. He thought of Qian Yu's pressure and demands on him, Yan Ling, and Kai Hua. Yu Changjian said to Li Su, "Your Holiness, Lord Qian Yu asked us to drag down a few of His Holiness's disciples during the competition. Including Gao Feng, we already have one of His Holiness's disciples. If we drag down too much, the other party will have more than 3 disciples. We, Before Yu Changjian could finish his sentence, Li Su interrupted him. Will you feel pressured? Speaking up to this point, Li Su looked at Qian Yu. After pondering for a while, he said, Qian Yu is the Freedom Envoy leading the Freedom Envoys. Everything will still be arranged by Qian Yu. But if anything goes wrong, Qian Yu, you will have to bear the responsibility. Freedom Envoys might not be as respected as Radiance Envoys or Azure Envoys, but they still represented the younger generation of the Federation. They had to represent the Federation's younger generation. As long as it did not go against their own interests. Li Su did not want to have any conflict of opinion with Qian Yu. Therefore, Li Su directly kicked Yu Changjian's opinion back to Qian Yu. Instant update of Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there's an update. Read the first complete version of the mobile version in advance. At the center of the examination grounds, the examinees in charge of scouting. Through its fey, it stared at the endless sea of flowers in shock. The examinee in charge of observing finally thought of something. Black was also in the assessment of the 100 sequence. This sea of flowers was the proof of darkness. The sea of flowers stood on the yellow sand. This meant that the quicksand that had just devoured all the dimensional creatures was also Black's doing. If that was the case, was Black not in the yellow sand castle in the sky? Li Nao was leading a group of healing-type spirit chi professionals to treat the injured candidates. At the same time, he observed the situation of the fortifications. Previously, when Li Nao heard the report, he was afraid that the sand would slide down when he dug the sand. The speed of digging the sandpit was very slow. However, he didn't expect that the sand was like it was alive. It took the initiative to reveal a large number of alien insects and demon corpses for him and the others to use. Li Nao decided to go and take a look. At that moment, a few examinees in charge of scouting personally found Li Nao. They explained the situation to Li Nao. When Li Nao heard that, he looked in the direction of the yellow sand castle with a horrified expression. At the same time, his eyes flickered with deep fear. Black's appearance was good news for those who were at the edge of the formation. It was good news for the examinees who had to constantly fight with alien insects and demons. But for Li Nao, who was the actual controller of the core area, it was a huge threat. Li Nao didn't doubt that at this moment, Black walked out of the yellow sand castle and issued a challenge to him. Black had just saved the lives of the Outer Circle members, and Black's formidable strength. It could easily seize control of this area. If Li Nao was a smart person, he would definitely choose to block the news immediately. He might even be more ruthless and kill the spirit chi professionals in charge of scouting. In any case, the sea of flowers was more than 1,000 meters away from his area. The other examinees couldn't see the sea of flowers with their naked eyes. Covering up the news of Black's existence could guarantee Li Nao's authority in the team to the greatest extent. However, Li Nao ultimately didn't choose to do so. Previously, Li Nao didn't have the opportunity to lead a large team. But now, he led 20,000 people and survived for 1.5 days. It allowed Li Nao to deeply understand the sense of responsibility as a leader. This sense of responsibility had subconsciously influenced Li Nao to put the interests of the whole as the priority. He was no longer just considering if he could occupy the last 10 spots. He would return to the Radiance 100 sequence and protect the glory of the 100 sequence members. At such a time, everyone was tired. Even if they drank water, ate food, and slept, most of the people were terrified by the ferocious beast tide. When Li Nao was patrolling the outer circle previously, he realized that many of the examinees' eyes were very empty. These examinees didn't think that they could pass the test. Therefore, they didn't have such a strong will to survive. At the thought of this, Li Nao called over the 200 team leaders that he had appointed and said, "Spread the news. Spread the news. That quicksand just now is Black. He's helping us resist the beast tide. Outside the quicksand, there is a sea of flowers. Let everyone brace up. We will definitely be able to hold on. Li Nao's words instantly made the eyes of these 200 team leaders light up. Their originally depressed and nervous hearts suddenly gave birth to a surge of courage. They looked at the yellow sand castle in the distant horizon. The 200 team leaders were like arrows that had left the bow. They spread the news to the ears of every examinee. Then, cheers sounded from the camp one after another. Slowly, they gathered into a long river of cheers. If not for the fact that all the spectators knew that this was a harsh test, they would have probably heard the cheers from the bottom of the examinees' hearts. They would have thought that they were holding some kind of celebration. The continuous cheers faintly spread to the yellow sand castle. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng heard it. At this moment, it was unknown who shouted, "Black Bull coins." Then, the sound of the Black Bull coins shook the sand on the ground. When Gao Feng heard the cheers of these examinees, he revealed a smile. However, Lin Yuan didn't smile. Instead, his brows were tightly knitted together. This was because Lin Yuan realized that the beast tide that had stopped at the edge of the sea of sand had moved. Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Read the first complete book in advance. The mobile version is the fastest. Chapter 1665. And after a few hours of preparation. Through Morbius True Data, Lin Yuan could clearly see the Class 4 demons and alien insects that managed the entire beast tide were constantly examining the Sea of Sand and the Sea of Flowers. Although the alien insects and demons did not gather together, the two sides were still constantly fighting. Every minute and every second, there were a large number of alien insects and demons fighting with each other, leaving the ground full of broken limbs. But these Class 4 alien insects and demons all gathered together. At the edge of the beast tide, they formed a small square formation. These Class 4 demons and alien insects formed a small square formation and were mobilizing the insect tide and demon tide. They attacked the central area from all directions. They were ready to explore the strength of the Sea of Flowers that had just appeared. Lin Yuan let the source sand surge freely. Under the surging of the beast tide, Lin Yuan discovered the normal and elite demons and alien insects could not go far at all. They would sink into the Sea of Sand. It could be said that the source sand surged freely and sifted out a large number of low-grade alien insects and demons. But soon, Lin Yuan discovered that something was wrong. If it was like this, then the alien insects and demons that could rush to the central area were at least bronze. The stronger ones could reach gold or even platinum, even if Red Thorn was constantly feeding on it. But in the end, when the examinees rushed to the central area, they had to face the beast tide. Their overall strength would be enhanced. This method went against Lin Yuan's original intention. The beast tide formed by Class 1 demons and alien insects as the basic combat units. It was far more terrifying than the original beast tide made of normal and elite demons and alien insects. Therefore, Lin Yuan immediately stopped the spontaneously surging source sand. He no longer let the source sand devour those normal and elite insects and demons. At the same time, when Red Thorn was feeding, it would specifically choose those high-level demons and alien insects according to its instincts and taste. Only then could it be considered to have a true adjustment function. The audience in the live stream room watched as the source sand under the beast tide stopped surging. A large number of beasts seemed to have gone crazy. They crazily rushed toward the central area. Facing the beast tide, the power of the Sea of Flowers was officially revealed. These feeding vines that Red Thorn had spawned until now. Beneath the yellow sand, there was still a large number of dimensional creatures that hadn't been eaten clean. Having enough energy supply, basically every carnivorous vine's level. All of them had reached the silver rank. There were even many vines that had been strengthened by eating a large amount of food. His strength could even reach the gold rank. But no matter how strong the Sea of Flowers was, it could not withstand the craziness of the insect tide. These alien insects were not as Lin Yuan had imagined. They rushed towards the center of the sea of flowers. Instead, he ignored the sea of flowers and prepared to step over them. To these dimensional creatures that had stepped into the sea of flowers, Red Thorn didn't hold back when it attacked. However, there were too many alien insects and demons. It was still quite a burden on the sea of flowers. Sensing the situation before him, Red Thorn immediately used a few eyes of relinquish. Then, she gestured at Lin Yuan with her small hands as if she was a little angry. From Red Thorn's point of view, these alien insects and demons, whose highest level was only rank 4, were all rank 4. It was just the lowest level of rations. Now, the rations had rebelled and even caused damage to the sea of flowers. In Red Thorn's opinion, it was a great shame. Red Thorn planned to show these alien beasts in the sea of flowers how powerful they were. Lin Yuan, I want to strengthen the sea of flowers and then eat them all. Lin Yuan didn't object to this. Instead, he acquiesced to Red Thorn's actions. As a result, Red Thorn immediately secreted a burst of pink spores. It asked Lin Yuan to use the source sand to help transport these pink spores to the sea of flowers. After understanding Red Thorn's thoughts, Lin Yuan immediately allowed Red Thorn's request. The source sand quickly sent the pink spores secreted by Red Thorn to various parts of the sea of flowers. Then, the roots of many carnivorous vines danced. When the pink spores had just grown to the size of a fist, the carnivorous vines wrapped their roots around the small object that the spores had just formed. Then, they fused the roots with this small object. By digesting the alien beasts' bodies, they provided energy for the spores to grow. A large number of low-level alien insects rushed into the sea of flowers and were immediately entangled by the carnivorous vines. The tip of the carnivorous vines drilled into the alien insects' bodies through the gaps in the insect armor. Some directly bit through the skin of the demons and drilled into the demons' flesh and blood to eat in big mouthfuls. The carnivorous vines were not the mouth of relinquish and could be like a furnace. Normal and elite demons and alien insects were thrown in. They could immediately be digested and disappeared. Even if the carnivorous vines consumed normal and elite demons and alien insects, it only took over 10 seconds. However, it still needed time. The carnivorous vines had no way to defend against external attacks during the feeding process. These demons and alien insects kept trampling on the carnivorous vines. They attacked with insect fangs, bone horns, acid, and flames. Because the carnivorous vines had been feeding on alien insects and abyssal demons for a long time, they had extremely high resistance to the acid in the alien insects' bodies and the demons' flames that could wither plant phase. But even so, the insect fangs gnawing and bone armor slashing, it still reduced the number of carnivorous vines in the periphery. Time was in a stalemate for a few minutes. In the face of the endless alien beast tide, the god view could be seen with the naked eye. The area of the sea of flowers was constantly shrinking. And it was during these few minutes that Lin Yuan was surprised to find out. Those small objects produced by Red Thorn's pink spores. In the blink of an eye, they grew to over 2 meters tall. They formed a strange, thorny sphere. No matter how he looked at it, this strange sphere looked like a simplified version of the mouth of relinquish without the eye of relinquish. However, this thing was not like the mouth of relinquish that could be eaten. After these objects grew to 2 meters tall, they still did not stop growing. In the end, they grew to a height of nearly 4 meters. The entire sphere also expanded into a translucent state. On the sphere, it was like blood vessels. There were a lot of pipes bulging out. These pipes quickly spread on the sphere. Finally, it grew out of the sphere. It was connected to every nearby carnivorous vine. The liquid inside the sphere was naturally injected into the carnivorous vine through the pipes. The carnivorous vine suddenly became full of energy. Originally, it would take about 10 seconds to digest a normal and elite exotic beast. But now, the time was added up. It would definitely not take more than 3 seconds. It meant that the efficiency of the Sea of Flowers eating had increased by nearly 3 times. The Sea of Flowers was originally forced into a sorry state by the alien beast tide. With the help of these pink spores, they developed into spheres. They quickly recovered the lost land. Chapter 1666. It had completely stabilized the 8 long belts of the Sea of Flowers in the beast tide. In the process of the battle between the Sea of Flowers and the beast tide, the central area had already been fortified. As for the battle between the Sea of Flowers and the beast tide, these members were in the same team as them. The examinees who were studying the battle had no way to discover it. However, the audience on Star Web had a bird's eye view. They were truly facing the battle between the Sea of Flowers and the beast tide. For ordinary people, this battle was like an epic movie. It made those who originally did not believe that the Sea of Flowers could stop the beast tide. He deeply understood why Black had been able to use this plant Fae back then. Under the insect tide, it had defended Millstone Town. It had even refreshed many spirit chi professionals' definition of Faes. It turned out that a Fae or Source-type life form had been nurtured. It could be nurtured to such an extent. Poison Beauty had now become a complete Black bragging. Since the yellow sand castle rose into the sky, she had been bragging about Black non-stop. After Lu Shuang realized that Black's identity must be extraordinary. When bragging about Black, she had to be more cautious than before. He no longer put Black and himself in the same category. Previously, Lu Shuang had lost to Black. Lu Shuang had never understood how she had lost. Many bullet comments asked if Lu Shuang was convinced. Lu Shuang had never publicly expressed that she was convinced of Black's strength. Lu Shuang believed that Black mainly won in the mystery of the Fae. As a B-rank spirit chi professional, Black did not have a myth breed Fae. Lu Shuang's and Black's Faes were Diamond X/Fantasy V. If she could know what Black's cat species Fae's abilities and exclusive skills were, she could avoid that cat species Fae's specialty. It might not necessarily not have the strength to fight with Black. But now, Lu Shuang had seen Black. Apart from that 8-tailed spirit cat, the other 2 Faes. Lu Shuang didn't know if Black had displayed all of its strength for these 2 Faes. But even if it was displayed now, no matter which one it was, Lu Shuang knew that she was not a match. Lu Shuang could not help but sigh in the live streaming room. I am completely convinced by Black. I feel that with Black's strength, he should not lose to those Majesty's disciples. Lu Shuang was a very careful person in the live streaming room. He never spoke carelessly. Yet, he said something like that. It was because that was what Lu Shuang really thought. Her Majesty's disciple had always been the same as Her Majesty. It was a legendary existence. There were always a few anonymous names on the Sanctuary Division rankings. The Stairway winning streak leaderboard was the same. Most of these anonymous people were the young geniuses of the top forces. Or perhaps, the legendary disciple of His Holiness. Lin Yuan's performance in the Radiance 100 sequence test was quite impressive. Lu Shuang said this from the bottom of her heart. Upon hearing Lu Shuang's words, the live stream instantly boiled over. Cheng, Shuangzi finally has someone he respects. Black is indeed powerful. Just based on the 2 Faes that he displayed, I can't think of any weaknesses that he has. However, it shouldn't be appropriate to compare Black with His Holiness disciple, right? Magic Jiezai, I don't think it's inappropriate. We can't see the strength of Black's 2 Faes through the star web, but look at those posts. They all say that Black sand elemental life form is Diamond X/Fantasy V. Even the top geniuses are only at this level. Could His Holiness disciple be able to break through to A-rank spirit chi professional at the same age as Black and have a myth breed Fae? Inexhaustible loneliness, no matter what, Black is my fan for life. Unless those His Holiness disciple come out and fight with Black. Otherwise, in my place, Black is the strongest. Lemon Chuxia, do you still remember the bet between His Holiness and the Freedom Federation a month ago? I have a feeling that Black might become the next Radiance envoys. There is a referendum in the Radiance envoys voting. Although the referendum only accounts for 10% of the total points, I must vote for Black. Maple Dance, hey! You can't not want to see Black's blue bird, 8-tailed spirit cat, bee, and healing type Fae just because he used this sand elemental life form and that plant source type life form. The star web was full of posts discussing the Sea of Sand and the Sea of Flowers. Black's official fan group was led by the group owner, Lu Lang. They entered the carnival in advance. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng didn't know any of this. Gao Feng looked at the 8 long ribbons of the Sea of Flowers standing proudly in the alien beast tide with a face of shock. The ferocity of the Sea of Flowers even made the alien beast tide. They even faintly felt fear. Gao Feng found that the dimensional lifeforms in the alien beast tide were crazily squeezing into the area between the 2 long ribbons of the Sea of Flowers. I didn't want to be picked by the vines in the Sea of Flowers and become fertilizer. Lin Yuan had used his own strength. He had faced all the Radiance 100 sequence candidates and the assessment content. For a moment, Gao Feng was so shocked that he couldn't even speak. As a member of the younger generation of a top faction, Gao Feng was used to big storms and waves. But everyone present, if it wasn't for Lin Yuan, if it was anyone else, even if it was Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, and An He, no one could do what Lin Yuan did in front of him. But when he thought that the one who created this Sea of Flowers was a 6-winged fairy that broke the common sense of fairy source-type lifeforms, Gao Feng felt relieved. On Lin Yuan's side, he was curiously communicating with Red Thorn. Red Thorn, I remember that you can only specialize 2 types of plants, right? In Lin Yuan's impression, Red Thorn used spores. The child ramets that it could specialize were only the spore cavity and the carnivorous vines. At most, it could only specialize in the water. It could also specialize in red gill-shaped flowers that could fight in the water. But now, the child ramets that Red Thorn specialized through the pink spores. It was a type that Lin Yuan didn't know at all. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Red Thorn said matter-of-factly, Lin Yuan, other than the digestive cavity that I specialized just now, which is filled with digestive fluid. I can also specialize a new type of child ramets. The new child ramets can eat up all these alien beast tides. Lin Yuan, do you want Red Thorn to show you? Red Thorn was very happy to receive Lin Yuan's praise just now. Right now, Red Thorn couldn't wait to receive more praise from Lin Yuan. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan hurriedly interrupted Red Thorn and said, Red Thorn, this is enough for now. You don't have to show the new child ramets first. While speaking, Lin Yuan couldn't help but hold his forehead with his hand. If Lin Yuan knew in advance that Red Thorn could specialize 2 new types of child ramets, the digestive cavity that this child ramet specialized would be the one before Red Thorn. It had never displayed its strength before. Lin Yuan would definitely let Red Thorn be a trump card and hide it. Chapter 1667. Red Thorn didn't specialize its child ramets into spore cavities. It wasn't that there was no way to make the 8 ribbon-shaped Sea of Flowers stand in the beast tide. Firstly, Red Thorn could consume the Eye of Relinquish. It could constantly produce new carnivorous vines. It could replenish the original area. There were many demons and alien insects buried under the Sea of Sand. It could consume the flesh of the dimensional lifeforms under the Sea of Flowers that weren't under the pressure of the beast tide. It could replenish the Eye of Relinquish that Red Thorn had digested. In order not to affect the test, Lin Yuan limited the area of the Sea of Flowers. Otherwise, the Sea of Flowers could expand rapidly. At the same time, the Platinum/Fantasy V Red Thorn could easily produce a large number of Platinum child ramets. If the carnivorous vines at the head were all specialized by Red Thorn, they would become Platinum. No matter how ferocious the beast tide was. It could only rely on those simple attacks. It couldn't hurt the carnivorous vines that Red Thorn had produced by devouring a large number of metals and spiritual materials. Lin Yuan was also very curious. What exactly was the fourth specialized child rammet that Red Thorn said could quickly eat up the beast tide? However, Lin Yuan wouldn't let Red Thorn reveal it now. What Lin Yuan was doing now was to adjust the difficulty of the test. He wanted the Radiance 100 sequence test to be able to follow the original preset. It would be carried out smoothly. Lin Yuan had been doing what a fixer should do. If Red Thorn ate up all the beasts in the beast tide, those examinees in the central area wouldn't be able to take the test. Seeing that Lin Yuan didn't allow it to reveal the fourth specialized child rammet, Red Thorn's small mouth couldn't help but pout. If it couldn't reveal the fourth specialized child rammet, how could it receive Lin Yuan's praise? As a source-type life form that it had contracted through its blood, Red Thorn's bloodline was closely connected to Lin Yuan's bloodline. Therefore, Lin Yuan immediately felt what Red Thorn was thinking. He quickly reached out and used his finger to touch Red Thorn's long green hair. Red Thorn, you did great. If it wasn't for you, those examinees in the central area wouldn't have been able to hold on. Red Thorn heard Lin Yuan's praise. Its small mouth couldn't help but curl up. Anyway, it didn't matter if it used the fourth specialized child rammet. As long as it received Lin Yuan's praise, Red Thorn would be very happy. As Lin Yuan praised Red Thorn, he reflected in his heart. He had always been silently enhancing Fays. After the Fey was enhanced, there would basically be very few chances for combat. This made Lin Yuan doubt his Fey's strength. He didn't know much about it. When did Red Thorn obtain the third and fourth types of child rammets? Lin Yuan did not know. The third way was to form a digestive cavity outside the body. Each specialized digestive cavity distributed digestive juices to nearby feeding vines, to increase the digestive capacity of the gluttonous vine. From there, the attack and endurance of the sea of flowers would be strengthened. He suddenly recalled that Red Thorn had asked him how it should evolve. He had chosen the path of devouring and digestion. This was probably the specialization method of the third child rammets. Red Thorn should have mastered it at that time. Lin Yuan thought to himself. I'm really not qualified to be a spirit chi professional. All along, he had been hoarding resources. They were all inside the spirit lock spatial zone, doing the work of creation masters. He rarely had the chance to go out and train like other spirit chi professionals. He wanted to understand his Fey's strength. He wanted to increase the degree of tacit understanding between him and the Fey in combat. Fighting in the wilderness was undoubtedly the best way. For ordinary spirit chi professionals on Star Web, they could also use it to match opponents. They could also use the Star Web Tower to match opponents. They could fight tenaciously with their opponents to increase their combat ability. They could also cooperate with the Fey. However, such a method was useless to Lin Yuan. There was no effect at all. It was very difficult for Lin Yuan to meet an opponent that was evenly matched with him on Star Web. Lu Shuang had a public duel in the Star Web arena. Due to the Fey being restrained, Lin Yuan could be said to have done nothing. He had only relied on genius's spiritual expansion to defeat Lu Shuang. Lin Yuan's biggest problem now was, he didn't understand his own strength. Until now, Lin Yuan had never used all his means. He had gone to battle once. Even the duel with Zhong Zhe at the Sai meeting. Lin Yuan had concealed his identity as black. He didn't choose to use the Source Sand, Red Thorn, Chimey, or the other Fays. When the Radiance 100 sequence test was over, he would fight with the Freedom Federation's envoys. Lin Yuan felt that he should have a chance to use all his strength. 2 days ago, Lin Yuan had instructed the Medusa demons to cooperate with the spirit craftsmen. They had built a cat garden in the swamp world overnight. There were already over 1,000 feline Fays in this cat garden. These 1,000 feline Fays were arranged to enter the cat garden. They were constantly nurtured by over 100 questions beasts. A large amount of spirit liquids that had been hoarded was also mobilized. What kind of combat power did Genius, which wasn't good at combat, have now. Lin Yuan really wanted to try. Lin Yuan had restricted the expansion of the Sea of Flowers. No matter how the exotic beast tide was consumed, it would always be able to maintain a certain scale and rush to the central area. After re-establishing the fortifications, the excited examinees all commanded their fays to release abilities against the insect tide. A rottenwood horned centipede spat out a large pool of venom. A rottenwood horned centipede spat out a large pool of venom. When the alien insects and demons stepped into this area, the alien insects and demons were like dead wood, constantly decaying. The alien insects and demons were all like withered wood, constantly decaying. A giant crocodile that was nearly 7 meters in size constantly spat out wind blades from its mouth and slashed at the demons. The exotic beast tide that had been separated by the Sea of Flowers gathered together. They would immediately fight. Under normal circumstances, when the dimensional lifeforms passed through the Sea of Flowers, the alien insects and demons would already be fighting to the death. Only one type of dimensional life form would be left. After all, as long as the alien insects and demons encountered each other, they would immediately determine life and death. The alien insects and demons would attack the examinees. This was because the alien insects and demons treated the examinees as rations. The demons and alien insects were each other's excellent rations. The chaos between the insect tide and the demon tide had greatly reduced the pressure on the examinees. After cooperating with each other, as well as the support from healing-type spirit chi professionals and support-type spirit chi professionals, the people in the center often didn't have to do anything. The position could already be firmly defended. This made many examinees heave a sigh of relief. However, Lin Yuan and Gao Feng, who were in the Yellow Sand Castle, knew right now the assessment method that the Holiness wanted. They could finally start for real. Chapter 1668. The people in the central area were the earliest batch to submit to Li Nao. They had reached an agreement with Li Nao. Now, there were two extremes in this group of people. One was to treat themselves as the true manager of the entire team of over 20,000 candidates. In the central area, they were enjoying the comfortable environment. Some people even took out the prepared delicacies. While eating, they played beast battle chess comfortably. They didn't take into account the border area, where some candidates died from time to time in order to protect their positions. The other was in the central area when there was nothing else to do. They quickly rushed to the outer area to boost morale and fight against the alien insects. Among these people was Li Nao. Li Nao brought 2 support-type spirit chi professionals and 2 healing-type spirit chi professionals. They kept moving around the relatively weak border area. He ordered his main fae, the Platinum 4/Fantasy 2 folded winged purple wolf. He kept releasing electric arcs to attack the Class 4 demons and alien insects hidden in the beast tide. These Class 4 alien insects and demons were equivalent to Platinum faes. It was very difficult for ordinary candidates to fight against them. But for Li Nao, it was a very easy thing. After all, the folded winged purple wolf had a grade suppression on Class 4 alien insects and demons. Gao Feng sighed when he saw this scene. These people who stayed in the central area to play beast battle chess, no matter how talented they are. The spirit guards and city guards definitely can't be the spirit guards. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded. From the start of the Radiance 100 Sequences exam, a large number of candidates who were eager to form teams had already been eliminated. Now, all the actions of these young geniuses, they were put on Star Web without any reservation. Naturally, it included the scene of the candidates playing beast battle chess in the central area. These candidates had obviously gained an advantage. But they had also lost the hearts of the people and many opportunities. Because this exam, in a way, is a test. It wasn't as simple as the Radiance 100 Sequences exam. It was also an interview for these candidates to face Quan Huiyao. At this moment, there should be many veteran forces and top forces staring at these candidates. They wanted to find the best candidates and focus on nurturing them. They wanted to bring them into their faction. But no matter how strong you were, if you didn't have a sense of collective responsibility, in the midst of danger, you would put on the attitude of a winner. You would be hated by others. On the other hand, Li Nao did a good job. At this moment, there was a heated discussion on the star web about this matter. Mr. Qian, I really don't know what those people in the middle of the campsite are thinking. Just because you have an advantage in your area, you don't care about the lives of your companions? This car is not going to kindergarten. Why do I feel so uncomfortable when I see this? Wasn't it all thanks to Black that this assessment could be turned into such an easy environment? I really want Black to cancel the sea of flowers and let those insects run in. Let's see if these people still have the confidence to play beast fighting chess. Life passerby, don't tell me that these people will become Radiant's 100 sequence members. I don't agree. Such a person doesn't deserve to be associated with the 100 sequences. Lonesome Walker, I bet that this assessment is not as simple as it looks. Your Majesty should be prepared. Time passed quickly. It had been 41 hours since the start of the Radiant's 100 sequence test. The final dimensional rift was about to open. After the dimensional rift opened, there was only 1 day of survival left. As the area continued to shrink, the intensity of the exotic beast horde grew higher and higher. The number of people continued to shrink. In the end, the remaining 10 members were slowly decided. At that moment, right above the core area of the campsite, it opened a dimensional rift in an unreasonable manner. It didn't give the people below any time to react. A large number of abyssal demons gushed out above the heads of the examinees in the central area. The demon horde landed in the core area. Those examinees who had relaxed their vigilance in the core area were trampled into mud by the demon horde. In fact, there were quite a number of examinees among them. They didn't even have time to summon their fays. This scene was completely out of the attention of all the examinees and the audience. The examinees were actually very clear about everything that happened in the campsite. After all, every small area would be assigned with an examinee in charge of investigating the situation. This examinee in charge of investigating would see the examinees in the central area playing beast fighting chess. Naturally, they would be dissatisfied and voice it out. Therefore, the examinees in the periphery were very clear about this situation. If it wasn't for the fact that they couldn't leave, once they withdrew, it was very likely that there would be a breach in the defensive fortifications that had been arranged in advance. Otherwise, even if the examinees in the periphery were not strong enough, they would still want to beat the heads of those examinees in the central area. Right now, in the sky above the central area of the campsite, the demon horde from the Pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rift had arrived suddenly. It made all the examinees' hearts tense up. It also made all the examinees in the periphery feel a little better. This Pinnacle Class 2 demon horde could really be considered justice from the heavens. However, the opening of this Pinnacle Class 2 demon's dimensional rift was much faster. It could be said that it was basically double the consumption of the team's strength. It could be said that this was basically double the consumption of the team's strength. He gritted his teeth and made a decision. Gritting his teeth, he made up his mind. Rose 35 to 50, turn around directly. Rose 35 to 50, turn around directly. Work together to resist the recently opened Pinnacle Class 2 demon dimensional rift. At the same time, provide cover fire for our comrades outside the 50th row. Those who are behind the 50 rows, quickly retreat towards the 50 rows. Try to take away the defensive fortifications in front of you and stack them in front of you. Temporarily set up a defensive fortification outside the 50 rows. I will immediately arrange for healing type spirit chi professionals and support type spirit chi professionals to support you. While speaking, Li Nao was anxious and shocked. He was anxious because after the battlefield expanded, there really weren't enough healing type spirit chi professionals. He was shocked because their holiness must have already predicted the possible scenarios in the assessment. Otherwise, this final dimensional rift, it was absolutely impossible for it to coincidentally open above the central area. It was impossible for it to have opened above the central region by chance. He didn't want to continue helping these examinees. Under the current high pressure, when the third day was over, the examinees should at most be left with 4,000 to 5,000 examinees. Lin Yuan didn't know how fast the assessment space would shrink after 3 days. Lin Yuan didn't know how fast the test space would shrink after 3 days. No matter how the assessment space shrank, it would be controlled by Red Thorn. No matter how the assessment space shrank, it would be controlled by Red Thorn. The survival pressure faced by the examinees was basically enough to maintain the same. However, after 3 days, the agreement that Li Nao had made with everyone would be scrapped. At that time, it would be the final chapter of the struggle for humanity. In the blink of an eye, it was already the third day. Chapter 1669. At this moment, the audience on Star Web held their breaths. If the entire Radiance 100 sequence test had just begun, the audience would be watching a show. In the midst of excitement, they would take turns to pay attention to their favorite contestants. It was like watching a reality show about survival in the wild. However, 3 hours later, the first dimensional rift opened. When Black faced the exotic beast tide, he let the yellow sand castle rise into the sky. The audience was shocked by Black's ability to change the landscape. Then, they all paid attention to Black. They watched as more and more examinees gathered in the central region. The fortifications were built bit by bit. As long as the audience wanted to watch, they could automatically shift to each examinee's point of view. The audience was looking forward to a real collision between the exotic beast tide and the examinees in the central region. But when it really collided, due to Ji Changding's suggestion and Lu Wenqing's misjudgment, the examinees were so devastated by the exotic beast tide that they couldn't even breathe. At this moment, outside the central region, all sorts of terrains, it instantly turned into a bouncing sea of sand. It instantly wiped out all the alien insects and demons within the sea of sand. It stopped the exotic beast tide's footsteps. It allowed the examinees in the central region to reinvigorate themselves. At the same time, 8 long ribbons of the Sea of Flowers appeared in the sea of sand. It allowed the audience to finally see Black's second Fae. The methods that Black's 2 Faes displayed were simply too shocking. Every audience was so shocked that they couldn't take it all in. There were tens of thousands of examinees in the central region who were working hard to set up the infrastructure. But it wasn't as exciting as the confrontation between the Sea of Flowers and the exotic beast tide. There was an intense confrontation between the Sea of Flowers and the exotic beast tide. When the exotic beast tide that had passed through the Sea of Flowers rushed towards the examinees again, the audience didn't have much anticipation. However, the Pinnacle Class 2 Abyss Dimensional Rift above the central region's core location. Everything was no longer as simple as it seemed. After this Pinnacle Class 2 Abyss Dimensional Rift carried out heavenly justice, it then carried out a true tribulation for the surviving examinees. Originally, after the adjustment, it accepted the examinees that gathered from other regions. It caused the examinees in the central region to expand to nearly 26,000 examinees. However, the beast tide from both inside and outside had been devouring for several hours. The number of examinees dropped by half. At this moment, there were only over 12,000 examinees left. Moreover, among these 12,000 examinees, apart from the healing type and support type spirit chi professionals who were especially well protected, there were only a few who could survive. Basically, everyone's phase were injured. Even the spirit chi professionals were injured. As for the healing type spirit chi professionals and support type spirit chi professionals who were well protected, they had to be protected. It wasn't like he was taking advantage of the team's bonuses. The healing type and support type spirit chi professionals were even more miserable. All of them had overdrawn their spiritual power. He was so exhausted that he couldn't even stand properly. However, he still had to heal the dying phase of the other candidates. Great waves washing away sand. Although the number of examinees had been reduced to 10,000, there were still more than 20,000 examinees. But now, the overall quality of the examinees was different. It was obviously a huge improvement. This kind of wilderness survival could improve a person's strength in all aspects. Show it in the most objective way. The first 50 people who went with Li Nao to the core area had varying strengths. These people were the first to join the team. He had always occupied an advantageous position in the team. However, the initial group of more than 50 people had not yet recovered. There were less than 20 people left. This meant that this test was dependent on luck. In fact, there wasn't much preferential treatment. Under normal circumstances, the people in the core area, they were like Li Nao. They would pull their own team and constantly provide support at the front. Otherwise, if they lost their prestige, they wouldn't be able to fight for the last 10 spots in the test. A person's strength wasn't just displayed in the most intuitive strength. Communication ability, adaptability, willpower, and all other aspects of abilities. In the process of survival in the wilderness, it was also the standard to measure whether a person was strong or not. Right now, there were a few people who obviously couldn't join the team at the beginning. But now, they had a prestige that was second only to Li Nao. They had many supporters. These people could stand out in the team. It was because they had leadership skills that far surpassed ordinary people. However, the higher the ability, the greater the responsibility. These people could obtain such high prestige. These people had sacrificed much more than others. It was inseparable. Right now, Li Nao's main fei, the folded purple spear's wings. It was attacked by a gliding jumping demon team. His wings were bitten off by the gliding jumping demons, leaving several large holes on his wings. Gliding jumping demons were one of the few level 3 demons that were adept at using poison. Poison hidden in the nails and teeth of the glider hopper. It could produce an extremely powerful hallucinogenic ability, causing the target to go berserk. Li Nao's Platinum 4/Fantasy 2 folded winged purple wolf was originally a capable fighter. They could use long-range elemental attacks and arcs of electricity. They attacked the flying demons and alien insects in the sky. But now, if the folded winged purple Spio was affected by the gliding jumping devil's poison, after breaking free from Li Nao's control, he started to attack his surroundings. That was the folded winged purple Spiathos, whose eyes were red from killing, going all out. He used the platinum skill, purple electricity scattering. It would instantly kill all the examinees within a 500-meter radius. The team, which didn't have many people to begin with, lost nearly 1,000 members. As a result, the folded winged purple wolf was infected by the poison and was struggling. Li Nao had no choice but to cut his losses and let his other main fei, the stacked winged purple spear, kill it. Fortunately, they were in the star web. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for Li Nao to make such a decision in reality. However, as a former Radiance 100 sequence member, Li Nao, who had gone out to train frequently, knew that, even if he encountered such a situation in reality, he had to make such a choice. Li Nao couldn't do something like letting nearly 1,000 people die with his fei. As a leader, he had to make a decision when it was time to make a decision. Even if the folded wing purple spear perished, it would have a huge impact on his strength. It wouldn't be beneficial for the duel after the agreement was cancelled. At that moment, most of the people's gazes were gathered on Li Nao's perspective. The folded wing purple spear's death made everyone realize that this was war. When these prodigies were fighting against the class 2-dimensional rift, they were in such a sorry state. When the dimensional rift was active, what about the various city guards and spirit guards that were constantly fighting against the Class 3 and Class 4 dimensional rifts? Many of the audience started to examine this question in their hearts. Basically, most of the ordinary people didn't feel the effects of the active dimensional rift. They didn't feel the effects of the active dimensional rift. Chapter 1670. The audience had such a feeling. In the yellow sand castle, Lin Yuan was watching all of this. His thoughts were also surging. The night before the Radiance 100 sequence test, Lin Yuan and Su Yiren had communicated. Although Lin Yuan had been preparing for the Radiance 100 sequence, he could not go to the Divine Wood Federation. However, he still had to communicate with Su Yiren every few days. Through communication with Su Yiren, Lin Yuan understood. There was a drastic change in the Deep Brahmin Federation. The various hidden noble families of the Deep Brahmin Federation began to command the merchant caravans. It was no longer like before, when they collected resources and sold resources at the same time. Instead, they took out their own funds and began to stock up on the existing resources on the market. It could be said that within a dozen days, the atmosphere of the entire Divine Wood Federation changed because of the Deep Brahmin Federation's merchant caravan, and became serious. Su Yiren speculated that the Deep Brahmin Federation would likely start a war that would affect the entire continent. When Lin Yuan heard this, he did not have any special feelings. But now, Lin Yuan felt it was time for him to make some preparations. At the same time, Lin Yuan thought his current accumulation of resources was already abundant enough for a private faction. But compared to the Federation, a continent, it was far from being comparable. This made Lin Yuan feel a sense of urgency. Lin Yuan realized that Gao Feng had wanted to help more than once. But in the end, Gao Feng forced himself to endure. Lin Yuan said to Gao Feng, "Gao Feng, you can go and help if you want. When you participated in the Psi meeting, many people saw your face. It is not a secret. The Freedom Federation must have gotten hold of the relevant information. Your greatest bargaining chip is your sacred source life form. And your Yellow Spring Lily's new ability. The Breeze Hibiscus and Spirit Spring Lily's ability is mainly to restore spiritual power for others. If you want, you can use it." In Lin Yuan's opinion, Gao Feng came from a top faction. He was also Lord Cicada's disciple. If he did nothing in the entire test, he would become a 100 sequence member in the Yellow Sand Castle. After that, Gao Feng would definitely be talked about. The current situation was the best time for Gao Feng, a pure support, to show his strength. When Gao Feng heard this, he looked at Lin Yuan with gratitude. It was not just because Lin Yuan had been protecting her since the beginning of the 100 sequence assessment. It was also because Lin Yuan was truly considerate of her. He could turn the day and night spirit silver into feathers and form wings on his back to take him flying. Similarly, this kind of feather could also be placed on other people. He brought the others along with him. However, to do so, he needed to inject spiritual power into the day and night spirit silver's feather. At that time, the feathers would become lustrous white. It could no longer maintain its original black color. Under Gao Feng's shocked gaze, Gao Feng saw a large number of black metal feathers emerging from the Yellow Sand Castle. These black metal feathers instantly changed color. Behind him, 2 pairs of pure white wings appeared. Then, the wings flapped. Gao Feng clearly didn't do anything. A thin layer of feathers wrapped around its back and connected to its wings. He was like a big bird, flying high in the sky. As soon as Gao Feng left the Yellow Sand Castle, he immediately became the target of the other level 4 demons and alien insects. But in the end, all the long-range attacks were useless. They were all blocked by the 2 pairs of pure white wings. If there were demons and alien insects near him, the 2 pairs of pure white wings flapped and shook off a large number of pure white feathers. This beautiful scene was filled with murderous intent. Each feather was like a dagger. As it flew, it pierced the bodies of the alien insects and demons. Gao Feng, who was originally dressed in white, was like an angel descending. He landed in the crowd, beside Li Nao. Gao Feng landed, and the feathers behind him withered. He fell to the ground under his feet. Then, he quickly turned into yellow sand and disappeared into the soil. This made the examinees near Gao Feng and the Star Web audience immediately understand. The white wings behind Gao Feng should be a means of black sand-type source-type life form. But when black flew, why were the wings black? But when it came to Gao Feng, why were the wings white? Since ancient times, black and white were the easiest to couple. And many people were discussing it on the star web. Gao Feng was the one with the most connections among all the examinees. Because Gao Feng went through Black's back door. He was directly locked in the yellow sand castle by Black. There was a feeling of keeping a mistress in a golden house. All of a sudden, everyone in the Star Web's Chiba forum was shocked by this scene. A large number of posts about Black and Gao Feng appeared. The Black Wind CP group was also quickly established. At this time, the central area was in the most dangerous time. Everyone was thinking that Gao Feng would go at this time. What did it mean? He wouldn't be kicked out by Black, right? If he was really kicked out of the yellow sand castle by Black, it was fine. Why did Black put a pair of wings on Gao Feng's back? Was it because Black was a very gentle and soft-hearted person? Was he more sentimental? If that was the case, then Black, who looked cold and aloof at the same time, looked cool. He was simply too cute. Gao Feng didn't have many fans on the Star Web. But there were many fans of Black. Seeing the Black Wind CP fans crazily posting. Black's male and female mothers directly exploded with anger. What? My son hasn't grown up yet, why are you making him a CP? According to the original situation, the fans of both sides would definitely quarrel. But all this had not happened yet. Black's male and female mothers all felt that. It seemed that the Black Wind CP was not impossible. Gao Feng, you're pretty good. After Gao Feng arrived at the scene, he said directly to Li Nao. Get all the healing type and support type spirit chi professionals to come to my side immediately. If someone else had arrived at the scene, they would have given him instructions immediately. Li Nao would definitely ignore it. However, Gao Feng had flown out of the yellow sand castle. The yellow sand castle could be said to be the biggest barrier for all the examinees. It was as if he was the biggest NPC in the entire exam. Without the bouncing yellow sand and the sea of flowers blooming in the yellow sand. Now, the number of people taking the test should be 0. When Gao Feng issued such an order, there had to be an intention behind it. However, it had just cut its losses and killed one of its main fays, the folded wing purple wolf. Li Nao's mental power was severely damaged. He still needed to recover for a while before he could stand up and continue moving. Therefore, Li Nao nodded at the remaining 97 team leaders. The 97 team leaders all glanced at Gao Feng. Only then did he call over a portion of the healing type and support type spirit chi professionals. At this moment, 2 pure white flowers quietly bloomed. Chapter 1671. When Gao Feng arrived at the scene, he gave instructions to Li Nao. This made the 97 team leaders around Li Nao rather dissatisfied. What? Call all the support type spirit chi professionals and healing type spirit chi professionals over? At that moment, the power offense type spirit chi professionals that were fighting against the insect tide were all injured. Their spiritual power was almost exhausted. They were relying on the support type spirit chi professionals at the back to restrain the alien beasts. At the same time, they were buffing their own side. The healing type spirit chi professionals were enduring the overdraft of their spiritual power. The few healing abilities that were released were better than nothing. The support type spirit chi professionals and healing type spirit chi professionals were the only 10,000 people left in the team. They were the most important supporters. Now that all of them were called over, it was the same as letting the power offense type spirit chi professionals who were already struggling. They had lost their last barrier. The team would have a large number of casualties. Without the healing type spirit chi professionals and support type spirit chi professionals at the back to support them. The power offense type and defense type spirit chi professionals would instantly lose confidence. However, Li Nao had already nodded. Furthermore, Gao Feng was a young master from a top faction. Under the watchful eyes of the entire star web, he should not do anything that would damage the team. Therefore, these team leaders had decided to mobilize the healing-type spirit chi professionals and support-type spirit chi professionals who no longer had any combat ability. At that moment, because of Gao Feng's actions on the star web, there was an intense discussion. Don't want to live and don't dare to die, what's going on? This candidate from the Yellow Sand Castle is taking over the battlefield as soon as he arrived. Is he trying to openly fight with Li Nao for authority? Passerby, no, I feel that gathering the healers and support-type spirit chi professionals is the same as killing those power offense-type spirit chi professionals. Their spirit chi has been exhausted and they are barely holding on. If we rashly change the situation, wouldn't that be adding fuel to the fire? Sour sweet self-knowledge. Why do I feel that Gao Feng must have his own plans for gathering the healing type and support type spirit chi professionals together? Otherwise, why would he put himself in danger by staying in the Yellow Sand Castle and going through the back door? Memories in the wind. I know the inside information and really can't be bothered to say anything. Open your eyes later and take a good look at the top strength of the younger generation. Memories in the Wind was an internet celebrity with a lot of fans on the star web. Memories in the Wind had so many fans. It was not because of how powerful the Memories in the Wind were. It wasn't because of the Memories in the Wind, or how interesting the live stream was. Memories Amidst the Wind had never opened a live stream. He just shared his life on the private Tiba forum that he had applied to set up. As a member of the younger generation who came from a top faction, the daily life of the Memory in the Wind consisted of dishes made of platinum spiritual ingredients. In addition to the Memories in the Wind, he was a Class 3 creation master. He would share some of his insights on concocting spirit liquids. The Memory in the Wind had become the dream boy of many girls. It was rare for a top force member to be so high profile on the star web. Memories in the Wind posted in Lu Xuan's live broadcast room. It immediately attracted the attention of many spectators. What was the strength of the top of the younger generation? Everyone agreed that Black was at the top of the younger generation. Many people even felt that His Holiness's disciple was not necessarily stronger than Black. However, the bullet screen that Memory in the Wind had just sent was obviously not directed at Black, but at Gao Feng. Could it be that Gao Feng was someone who got in through the back door? Could he even represent the top strength of Radiance's younger generation? What a joke. It was not that Gao Feng had not made a move before. He only summoned a flower species Fey and released a gust of wind to blow away one of the contestants. It was such an ordinary attack. At most, he could use the wind to restrain the flying demons and alien insects. The role that he could play in the team was impossible to surpass Li Nao. However, before the star web netizens could think more, 2 white flowers quietly bloomed in front of Gao Feng. After the flowers bloomed, they didn't immediately release the ability. Instead, the plant took root in the ground and kept sprouting. Subsequently, 7 or 8 branches grew out. On each branch, a pinkish-white lily that was bigger than a watermelon bloomed. Immediately after, these blooming lilies created a layer of ripples. Every lily bud spat out a stream of water in the shape of a dragon. These dozens of dragon-shaped gushing springs flew in the sky. They constantly collided with each other. Every time they collided with each other, these dragon-shaped gushing springs would rise into a cloud of mist. More clouds accumulated, and the color of the sky slowly turned blue-gray. The entire sky turned gloomy. Just as the audience and the examinees discovered that these 2 plant fays were very extraordinary. Just as they were guessing what these 2 plant fays were doing. Only to hear Gao Feng shout towards the sky. Spirit Spring Lily. Spirit Spring summons rain. Rapid rain nourishment. In an instant, bean-sized raindrops smashed onto the healing type and support type spirit chi professionals that had gathered. These support type and healing type spirit chi professionals that had just gathered were drenched. If it was before, everyone would be drenched. They would definitely be very unhappy. Moreover, there were many females among these examinees. But now, these examinees had been killing for 3 days. Everyone was exhausted and even in a daze. After being drenched by the rain, they were much more spirited. Just as they were waiting for Gao Feng to speak and to see what instructions he had, these healing type and support type spirit chi professionals, who were drenched by the spirit rain, discovered that the spiritual power in their bodies had just been consumed. It was being replenished rapidly. Even the dried-up spiritual power in their phase had been restored. This spiritual power recovery speed was simply appalling. It would definitely take less than 2 minutes for each examinee to replenish their spiritual power. After Gao Feng replenished the exhausted spirit chi for the 300 examinees in front of him, he said, "All of you, return to your original positions and fight. Your teammates protected your lives, so you have to be worthy of your teammates' contributions." At this moment, Li Nao was already stunned by Gao Feng's move. In an instant, he replenished the exhausted spirit chi for the 300 examinees. In an instant, he replenished the exhausted spirit chi for the 300 examinees. What kind of support technique is this? It could be said that the strength that Gao Feng displayed was far beyond Li Nao's understanding. With such strength, was there really a need for Gao Feng to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence test? To put it bluntly, he was a support-type spirit chi professional in the Radiance 100. There were probably not many who were stronger than Gao Feng. The spectators on Star Web were still doubting Gao Feng. But very quickly, these doubts disappeared. In everyone's subconscious, it could be said that they all had heroic sentiments. Chapter 1672. At that moment, Gao Feng was like a divine soldier descending from the sky. He had completely satisfied the hidden heroism in the hearts of the audience. It could be said that among the 4 major combat class spirit chi professionals, the power offense type spirit chi professionals were the most numerous. Their overall strength was also the strongest. Defense type spirit chi professionals were the best partners for healing type spirit chi professionals. Healing type spirit chi professionals were often the most indispensable existences in a team. Compared to the status of these 3 types of spirit chi professionals, the status of support-type spirit chi professionals had always been at a relatively low level. For example, those main teams in the S tournament would usually guarantee the allocation of combat class spirit chi professionals, defense-type spirit chi professionals, and healing-type spirit chi professionals. Unless it was a special support-type spirit chi professional. Otherwise, they would not be considered a team. For example, among the A-class guild clubs, the top 3 were the Dragon Gate Guild Club and the Rhine Guild Club. They did not have support-type spirit chi professionals. This made the audience, who mainly watched the S tournament, to understand spirit chi professionals. They subconsciously thought that support-type spirit chi professionals were useless. But now, Gao Feng's move, it made the ordinary audience suddenly realize something. It turned out that a powerful support-type spirit chi professional was actually so important in a team. While Gao Feng was recovering the spiritual power of these 300 people, he was also helping Li Nao to recover the spiritual power that he had consumed. This caused Li Nao to look at Gao Feng with eyes filled with gratitude. After some hesitation, Li Nao stood up and thanked Gao Feng. Then, he rode on his main fei, Rotten Spot, and continued to shuttle around the team. Then he rode on his main fei, the Rotten Spot Dog, and continued to shuttle around the team. Li Nao's actions stunned Gao Feng and the other 97 team leaders. Li Nao's actions stunned Gao Feng and the other 97 team leaders. They immediately understood that Li Nao's actions were to give the command of the team to Gao Feng. Li Nao would make such a choice. On the one hand, it was to measure Gao Feng's strength. Gao Feng had such strength, and he was not qualified to compete with Gao Feng. Gao Feng could recover the spiritual power of spirit chi professionals in a range. Even if he did not transfer the control of the team to Gao Feng had such a thought in his heart. He could also seize the control of the team in a short period of time. On the other hand, for this team that was formed by him, Li Nao, who was full of responsibility, could not ignore these Class 3 and Class 4 demons and alien insects that could fly. He was continuously killing the candidates who were at the edges, trying to protect their companions behind them. At this moment, everyone's gaze was focused on Gao Feng. Therefore, not many people noticed Li Nao's behavior. They wouldn't understand the deeper meaning in Li Nao's heart. However, the majesties on the golden stone pillars started to discuss among themselves because of Li Nao. Lu Wensheng said with admiration. Night Leaning Moon, Cicada Cry, do the two of you have any intentions of nurturing this Li Nao? If not, it's not a bad idea to let Li Nao stay in the Radiant Sacred Hall as a deacon. Night Leaning Moon said directly after hearing this. It's overkill to let Li Nao stay in the Radiant Sacred Hall as a deacon. Li Nao's current strength is not strong enough. But Li Nao's two main fays have been nurtured quite well. Li Nao, who is compatible with a power of fence-type K9 Fey, will have many excellent choices for the next Fey contract. In addition, Li Nao's ability to command a team has improved after some training. He definitely has the ability to lead an army of more than 10,000 people. The cicada continued Night Leaning Moon's words. Li Nao is very good at looking at the big picture. While ensuring his own interests, he is able to abide by his heart. Such a talent is suitable to learn from the city lord. After the assessment, I'll get someone to find out which city Li Nao is from. I might as well ask the city lord of the big city that Li Nao is in to take care of Li Nao. Cicada Cry's words were basically equivalent to choosing Li Nao. However, Cicada Cry did not choose to let Li Nao become Gao Feng's junior brother. Instead, he intended to give Li Nao to the castellan of a big city. He asked the city lord of the big city to nurture Li Nao carefully. Iron Prison, who did not speak much, stood at the side. He said as he looked at the few examinees who were bravely fighting against the evil demons and alien insects. Apart from Li Nao, there are a few other candidates who have good potential and temperament. But in my opinion, it's impossible for these people to be the last 10 survivors. I suggest that we let the city guards of the various main cities hire these exam candidates. Invest a certain amount of resources into these candidates. As he spoke, Iron Prison looked at Cicada Cry. When Cicada Cry heard Iron Prison's words, he nodded. It was obvious that he agreed with Iron Prison's words. However, Night Leaning Moon was not having it. Why? In your eyes, the spirit guards are not qualified to nurture these exam candidates? How many resources can the city guards have? I can arrange for this batch of excellent exam candidates to be taken care of by the guard envoys so that they can gain some experience. I can only grow faster in the spirit guards. Iron Prison looked at Night Leaning Moon helplessly. He had only said that the city guards could nurture these exam candidates. He did not say that the spirit guards could not take in these exam candidates. Why did Night Leaning Moon suddenly attack him out of nowhere? Originally, Iron Prison wanted to say that he controlled the sin cleansing pond. He also needed a few prison guards. But now, if Iron Prison were to say these words again, it would be difficult for him to say it. Be it compared to the spirit guards or the various main cities. The sin cleansing pond was not competitive at all. The 300 healing type and support type spirit chi professionals were fully replenished with spiritual power. They returned to their original positions and poured out a large amount of spiritual power from their bodies. In an instant, nearly 1,000 exam candidates who were about to lose their lives to the alien beast tide. They were pulled back from the gates of hell. They also saved the lives of the fatally injured exam candidates and fays. It was not that these healing-type spirit chi professionals did not want to let these dying exam candidates recover from their injuries. However, doing so would consume too much spiritual power. Rather than saving one person's life, it was better to let 10 people not die. This was the only way to resist the alien beast tide to the greatest extent. Right now, there were still over 8,000 people left. They were all the true elites of the Radiance Federation's younger generation. Everyone knew that the longer this exam dragged on, the more meaningful it would be. This meaning did not refer to whether an individual could enter the Radiance 100 sequence. It was the Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation's envoys who were watching the ceremony. As the Radiance Federation's top young generation, it was necessary and also had a duty. They had to display their strongest strength to win glory for the Radiance Federation. They had to let the Azure Federation's and Freedom Federation's envoys understand the Radiance Federation's strength. At that moment, Gao Feng waved his hand. In an instant, all the Star Web viewers fell into shock again. Chapter 1673. The dragon-shaped spring that was originally spat out by the spirit spring lilies formed clouds in the sky. They only gathered within a radius of 200 square meters. The dragon-shaped spring that spewed out from the blooming lily collided with each other. They relied on the rising clouds to maintain the continuous rain of spiritual power from the sky. But now, the two spirit spring lilies that received Gao Feng's command swayed their branches. With themselves as the center, they formed two spiritual power vortexes. Then, each flower trembled violently. Every trembling flower spewed out at least 9 dragon-shaped spring streams. Hundreds of dragon-shaped springs flew above Gao Feng's head. Previously, the dragon-shaped springs collided with each other to form clouds. But now, these dragon-shaped springs directly collided with each other fiercely. Until one side smashed the other side. Then, the smashed side was absorbed into the body. During this process, the area of the clouds was constantly expanding. At this moment, the sky above Gao Feng's head seemed to have formed a battlefield that was even more intense than the confrontation between the candidates and the exotic beast tide. Among them, there was a dragon-shaped spring that had the upper hand at the beginning. Slowly, this dragon-shaped spring became the winner. It kept devouring the other dragon-shaped springs. The dragon posture of this dragon-shaped spring also became clearer. When the last dragon-shaped spring was devoured, the surface of the dragon-shaped spring suddenly condensed into one pure white lily after another. The area of the clouds had expanded to nearly 2,000 square meters. Such an area could easily cover 1,000 candidates. However, the situation was critical. Those power offense-type spirit chi professionals were at the front of the team. Even if the Fays and themselves were already riddled with injuries, they were still struggling to resist the insect swarm. Gao Feng could not transfer the healing-type spirit chi professionals and support-type spirit chi professionals like before. He would transfer these power offense-type spirit chi professionals and defense-type spirit chi professionals who were at the front. Then, he would help them replenish the consumed spiritual power in their bodies. Gao Feng did not have such an idea. Otherwise, Gao Feng would not expand the area of the clouds to such a large area. Seeing the lily dragon spirit take shape in the sky, Gao Feng immediately issued a command. Starting from right in front of me, move the clouds and send a spiritual power shower. Spirit spring lilies, do your best to restore my spiritual power. Hearing Gao Feng's instructions, the stalks of the two spirit spring lilies directly extended. The elongated flower twined around Gao Feng's body. The flower of the spirit spring lily stuck to Gao Feng's waist, shoulder, and back. He poured his spiritual power into Gao Feng's body. The 50-meter-long translucent dragon spirit was like an auspicious sign. Hundreds of blooming lilies twined around it, wrapped in clouds and mist. Above the examinees, clouds and rain could be seen. Under the torrential rain, the examinees who were enveloped by the torrential rain discovered that the spiritual energy in their bodies had been depleted. In just 2 minutes, it was immediately filled up. It was the same for his phase. These examinees took advantage of the process of the spiritual energy shower. He madly used his spiritual energy like it was free. He tried his best to clear the exotic beast tide in front of him. Using this opportunity, the corpses of the alien insects and demons piled up high. Although the insect tide and the devil tide were two different dimensional life forms, they were different. But whether it was the insect tide or the devil tide, they had one thing in common. That was, before launching an attack, if there was a comrade's corpse under his feet, They would prioritize the food that reached their mouths first. Actually, the reason why the insect swarm and the devil swarm kept advancing was because of the constant advancement of the insect swarm. It was to obtain flesh and blood energy to increase their strength. Gao Feng originally wanted to help all the examinees recover their spiritual energy. But at this moment, he was stunned by what the examinees were doing while bathing in the spiritual energy shower. Of course, Gao Feng could understand such an approach. However, even if Gao Feng had the spirit spring lily to help him recover his spiritual energy. But in the end, he wasn't a heavenly god. His spiritual energy couldn't be consumed endlessly. It was already extremely difficult to replenish the spiritual energy of 8,000 people at one time. If all the people who were replenishing their spiritual energy under the spiritual energy shower, they were squandering their spiritual energy in the spiritual energy shower. Fundamentally speaking, Gao Feng was replenishing the spiritual energy of more than 15,000 people at one time. Gao Feng couldn't bear this. The lily dragon spirit drove the rain clouds at the speed set by Gao Feng. It moved toward other areas of the crowd. The examinees who squandered the spiritual energy in their bodies felt the speed of the dragon spirit above their heads. They couldn't help but continue to save their spiritual energy. In less than 10 minutes, the lily dragon spirit became more and more transparent. The raindrops also turned from a shower to a drizzle. When the lily dragon spirit completely disappeared, the rain clouds in the sky dissipated. Gao Feng, on the other hand, ungracefully fell to the ground. Even the two spirit spring lilies were listless on the side. Obviously, the spiritual energy in his body had been exhausted. However, as a spiritual object that was naturally good at gathering spiritual energy. Even if the spirit spring lily's spiritual energy was exhausted, it still wanted to recover its spiritual energy. It wouldn't take much time. In the process of the spirit spring lily recovering its spiritual energy, the flowers attached to Gao Feng's back lit up. Spiritual energy began to flow into Gao Feng's body. Then, Gao Feng, who had recovered a little spiritual energy, waved his hand. A huge green and white hibiscus appeared in front of Gao Feng. After this hibiscus appeared, its petals immediately swayed and turned into a rain of flowers. Every petal accurately landed on a candidate's body. On the examinee's body, a hibiscus mark was formed. This hibiscus mark swayed with a breeze. On one hand, it could form a weak protective layer for the examinee. With this kind of protection, even if an elite demon smashed it with a heavy fist, it could break through. Basically, it could only block some sand and stones that were blown over. However, this hibiscus mark's true strength was. It wasn't because of its defensive ability. It was because it could use this breeze to capture the spiritual energy in the air. It would then guide the spiritual energy into the examinee's body. It allowed many examinees to feel what was called meticulous care on the battlefield. Especially those power offense-type spirit chi professionals and defense-type spirit chi professionals. They had been lacking in spiritual energy for at least a day. It had been maintained at the level of spiritual energy overdraft. Under the condition that their spiritual energy was not overdraft, they could use as much spiritual energy as they could. There were clearly times when phase could release abilities to resist damage. However, it might consume more spiritual energy. The phase simply used their bodies to bear the damage. After being in such an environment for a long time, Gao Feng's powerful support ability made these examinees who were blessed. They almost wanted to turn around and call Gao Feng mom. From Gao Feng, these examinees all felt like a mother. Meticulous care. The breeze of the hibiscus had a cleansing effect. It removed the blood and dirt from the examinees' bodies. It made every examinee feel abnormally refreshed. The audience on Star Web had been praising Gao Feng and Li Nao. They thought that Gao Feng had connections. Chapter 1674. Although it had just acknowledged Gao Feng, it was far inferior to Black's ability to make the yellow sand castle rise into the sky. It used the boiling quicksand to devour the beast tide. In the sea of sand, it was so shocking to set up 8 sea of flowers. It was not as good as Li now leading a team of 10,000 people to resist the beast tide. It was so praiseworthy to show one's leadership ability everywhere. However, Gao Feng had just replenished the spiritual power of the 300 healing-type spirit professionals and support-type spirit chi professionals as well as their phase. He had once again used a shocking method. Within 10 minutes, he had replenished all the examinees present. All of them had been replenished. He had allowed every examinee to replenish the spiritual power in their bodies. Previously, the 8,000 examinees had seemed a little powerless in the insect tide. It was as though they could be devoured by the insect tide at any time. But now, the examinees were fighting against the insect tide. They had already gained the advantage. Even the power of fence-type spirit chi professionals in the front row could throw the insect corpses behind them. They had formed a buffer zone. In the situation where they had sacrificed themselves, they could fight for more buffer time for their companions at the back. After more than 2 days, the examinees' mentality had been constantly changing. From the very beginning, everyone wanted to fight for the 10 Radiance 100 sequence spots. Later on, when fighting side by side, they had seen the excellence of their companions. They had realized their own shortcomings. It could be said that every examinee in their own environment, they were all absolute geniuses. After all, the Radiance 100 was simply too big. But now, everyone was cooperating with each other. It was far more clear than fighting. They could feel each other's strength. Especially the examinees in the front row. To be able to survive until now, they had already entrusted their backs to each other several times. The other party had not let them down. This caused the examinees to change from the original competitive relationship. It had imperceptibly become a comradeship. These feelings would not end with the exam. Even if everyone was in different places. On Star Web, they would often gather together. The behavior of the examinees in the front row made the High Lords on the golden stone pillars reveal a faint smile. It seemed that the innovation of the Radiance 100 sequence exam this time, apart from a little mistake by Ji Changdang and Lu Wencheng, it was very successful. Because in this trial, a dazzling light was born. This allowed one of Hui Yao's meanings to be automatically passed down. Night Leaning Moon said to the left palm official Zhua Ming and the right palm official Yu Zhe who were standing behind her. Sort out the information of the examinees who spontaneously built a natural barrier for their companions. I plan to form a new team in the Spirit Guards. When the time comes, you guys will be in charge of contacting these exam candidates. The treatment will be based on the Radiance 100's resources. Zhua Ming and Yu Zhe nodded. Knowing what these little fellows had done, he received the chief guard's appreciation. In Zhua Ming and Yu Zhe's hearts, these little fellows were indeed worthy of such an honor. At that moment, the Moon Empress, who hadn't spoken much, spoke up. Qingyue, let Xian Yu handle the matter of organizing the information. It's much more convenient for Mystic Moon to access the Star Web's information than others. The assessment of the 100 sequence this time has shown us something far more dazzling than one's own strength. In my own name, I will take out a sum of resources. I'm here to help you prepare this new Spirit Guard. The Moon Empress words startled the 12 abyssals present. In the past, the Moon Empress would address Night Leaning Moon as Chief Guard Yi. Why was it suddenly like 10 years ago? She began to call Night Leaning Moon by her name. The Moon Empress had never spoken of the longevity rat situation. During Wang Ting's meeting, she didn't mention much about her situation. The other abyssals only knew that the Moon Empress' sacred weeping moon beast was under her command. Its strength had reached the eternal realm. The Moon Empress' strength had also broken through. However, Night Leaning Moon had always been guarding the Moon Empress in the Radiant Moon Palace. Therefore, she understood the Moon Empress situation better than the other abyssals. It was likely that the Moon Empress was willing to take out a sum of resources to help him. It was most likely because the Moon Empress wanted to return the favor. This favor came from the Moon Empress herself. On the other hand, the Moon Empress should be helping Lin Yuan return the favor. However, the Moon Empress shouldn't know. In fact, she was the one who owed Lin Yuan a favor. Lin Yuan gave himself the feather that contained the power of night. He also gave Lu Jia 12 source-type cocoon demon embryos. It gave Lu Jia a limitless future. It was tantamount to Lin Yuan building a bridge to heaven for herself and her inheritance. Night Leaning Moon simply did not know how to repay Lin Yuan's favor. Therefore, the Moon Empress proposed this sum of resources. Night Leaning Moon subconsciously wanted to open her mouth to refuse. However, before Night Leaning Moon could speak, the Moon Empress continued. I will take out a sum of resources to help Leaning Moon. If the rest of you are lacking in Creation Master resources, you can also come to me for help. The Moon Empress' words stunned the 12 abyssals, including Night Leaning Moon. Then, the eyes of the old man sitting on the middle stone pillar suddenly lit up. Leaning Moon, do you mean that your Creation Master rank has broken through like before? The Moon Empress had never been a high-profile person. She didn't like to announce her abilities to outsiders. But now, the Moon Empress openly admitted it. My Creation Master standard has indeed improved. I'm going to try to see if I can extract the pure power of eternity from the Eternal Heart phase. If possible, I plan to use the pure power of eternity as the standard for a Class 6 Creation Master. The Moon Empress' words excited the other 12 abyssals. Since the Moon Empress had said such words, it proved that the Moon Empress was confident of becoming a Class 6 Creation Master. Chef Supreme and Bamboo Monarch looked at each other. As the older Class 5 Creation Masters of the Radiance sect, when the two had become Class 5 Creation Masters, the Moon Empress had yet to become a Radiance Envoy. Now, the Moon Empress, who had become a Class 5 Creation Master, had caught up. Bamboo Monarch and Chef Supreme had not grasped the opportunity to improve their Creation Master abilities. But the Moon Empress had already reached that level. The Radiant sect no longer had 3 Class 5 Creation Masters presiding over it. Instead, it had 1 Class 6 Creation Master and 2 Class 5 Creation Masters presiding over it. Among the 13 abyssals, everyone was on equal footing. But if one really wanted to compare, apart from the old man, the Moon Empress was already firmly in second place. Feeling the others' gazes on her, the Moon Empress' expression did not change at all. Logically speaking, the Moon Empress would not reveal the news of her Creation Master abilities to anyone. But after a round of comprehensive consideration and careful consideration, the Moon Empress decided to step forward. Dare to be the first in the world. Chapter 1675. At that moment, the Moon Empress felt rather complicated. For a person who was used to keeping a low profile, he suddenly became high profile. Courage was required to do so. So far in the world, no one had mentioned the definition of a Class 6 Creation Master. The Moon Empress felt that it wasn't because there weren't any Creation Masters in the world that had reached this stage. Before he became the 3rd Class 5 Creation Master of the Radiant sect, the Azure Federation already had 3 Class 5 Creation Masters. The Freedom Federation had 4 Class 5 Creation Masters. Furthermore, there was a clear Class 5 Creation Masters legacy. In the early years, Huiyao only had 2 Class 5 Creation Masters. The concept of 3 great federations had yet to be fully established. It was the Moon Empress who had ascended to become a Class 5 Creation Master. After the Radiance Federation announced the 3rd Class 5 Creation Master, on the surface, the Radiance Federation had the same number of Class 5 Creation Masters as the Azure Federation. Only then did the Origin world have the concept of 3 great federations. The Azure Federation was a family-style federation. It was different from the Freedom Federation and the Radiance Federation. In the Azure Federation, there was no concept of an overlord. The patriarchs of the 12 great Azure families were the common masters of the Azure Federation. In such a family-style federation, as long as a family had a Class 5 creation master on the surface, they would be able to take over the Federation. If someone in the family became a Class 5 creation master, they would usually hide it as a secret trump card. The Freedom Federation, in terms of overall strength. It was slightly stronger than the Radiance Federation and the Azure Federation. In the early years, he had 4 Class 5 creation masters. In the past 150 years, because of the internal strife. Moreover, 2 Class 5 creation masters had perished. Therefore, even though the Moon Empress' strength had increased tremendously, she still couldn't control it. He still hadn't underestimated the Freedom Federation. Furthermore, the Moon Empress felt that according to her star rating, it would be better to use the star rating. It wasn't as if the Freedom Federation didn't have anyone that could reach the standard of a Class 6 creation master. The Moon Empress had raised the concept of Class 6 creation masters in the origin world by herself. This was tantamount to gathering the attention of the entire origin world on him. This wouldn't benefit the Moon Empress at all. However, he would do so in a month. On one hand, it was extremely beneficial to Hui Yao. Right now, the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation were wrestling. The Moon Empress needed to give the other High Lords and even Quan Huiyao a reassurance pill. Otherwise, if the Moon Empress wanted to hide her Class 6 creation master abilities, she wouldn't be able to do so. He would not be able to provide creation master resources to the other 12 eminences. The other 12 majesties were not fools. Once the Moon Empress used her ability that surpassed that of a Class 5 creation master, she would be able to defeat the Moon Empress. The other party would be able to sense it very soon. By then, the news of him becoming a Class 6 creation master would naturally be exposed. Rather than that, it would be better for the Moon Empress to make a public statement. Unless the Moon Empress wasn't going to give any creation master resources to the other eminences. Only this way, the other eminences wouldn't know that the Moon Empress had become a Class 6 creation master. However, the origin world was on the brink of an upheaval. The Moon Empress had to step forward and increase the strength of the other majesties. Only in this way could Huiyao survive the turmoil of the origin world. To become the everlasting mountains and rivers. On the other hand, with the development of Sky City's forces. In addition, Lin Yuan had taken out the Golden Lotus Brocade plant, various ordinary Class 5 creation masters, and even the Moon Empress herself. Something that could not be cultivated. Lin Yuan was still in the growth stage. In terms of overall strength, even if they could fight above their level, they would still have the battle prowess of an emperor. But at the end of the day, he was just a B-rank spirit chi professional with a peak fantasy breed fae. A spirit chi professional could not be considered a king-class expert without reaching A rank. Therefore, instead of letting the other federation's people focus their attention on Lin Yuan, it was better to let them all fall on her. Right now, even if the Moon Empress was facing the Freedom Federation's 3 self-proclaimed gods, she could also be fearless. The Freedom Federation's 3 self-proclaimed gods. They only relied on 11-star sacred source lifeforms. 10-star sacred source lifeforms could trigger astronomical phenomena. 11-star sacred source lifeforms could already turn astronomical phenomena into a function for their own use. This ability was indeed no different from the traditional definition of God. Coincidentally, with Lin Yuan's help, the Moon Empress was able to call herself God. Now, she also had the qualifications to call herself God. However, the Moon Empress did not plan to call herself Moon God. The Moon Empress defined a Class 6 creation master for Huiyao. The first below connate beings. It was also to protect her disciples' safety as a master. These 2 responsibilities drove the Moon Empress. She made a choice that went against her character. As for her strength, the Moon Empress planned to remain the same as before. She would only show it when it was necessary. She listened to the other Her Majesties congratulating her. The Moon Empress nodded in response. The Moon Empress could not help but think of the pure spirit chi that Lin Yuan had provided for her. The pure spirit Qi had allowed the Moon Empress to awaken her life providence. After awakening her life providence, she had taken another step forward. It was because of this step. It allowed the Moon Empress to have a new understanding of life. It allowed the Moon Empress to have another opportunity to improve her Creation Master standard. However, after the Moon Empress's Creation Master standard had improved, she went to mix the Spirit Qi. She found that the Spirit Qi that she had used all her strength to mix was still of a lower purity. It was still a little less pure than the Spirit Roast Peony that Lin Yuan had given her. Class 1 to Class 5 Creation Masters had a clear classification of stars. Each star had an iconic measurement standard. However, these measurement standards were just man-made. It was just like how the Moon Empress had designated the purification of eternal power from the eternal heart image as the measurement standard for a Class 6 Creation Master. But different paths led to the same goal. The standards of a Creation Master really needed to be meticulously classified. A Creation Master's ability to compare. In the end, it was just a competition of who could mix a higher concentration of Spirit Qi. After all, Spirit Qi was everything. It was the foundation for phase to evolve and mutate. The Moon Empress had already evaluated Lin Yuan's Creation Master strength in her heart. Lin Yuan was clearly her disciple. However, the Moon Empress felt that Lin Yuan's ability as a Creation Master. It had already exceeded her understanding. Moreover, Lin Yuan had used a special method to control a Class 5 Creation Master. This Class 5 Creation Master was the culprit that had caused the destruction of the whale ocean trade, Di Wanmi. Even if Di Wanmi had just become a Class 5 Creation Master. In terms of pure Spirit Qi, he might be weaker than veteran Class 5 Creation Masters like the Chef Supreme and the Bamboo Monarch. However, purifying the power of willpower from the Willpower Rune. Purifying the power of law from the Law Rune. Purifying the power of world from the World Crystal. Purifying the power of immortality from the immortal body was very easy. At the same time, he could also use the bodies of dead sacred source lifeforms to refine artifacts. For Di Wanmi, who was already a Class 5 Creation Master, it was just a matter of reaching out. Chapter 1676. A month before the Moon Empress went into seclusion, she had thought about Hui Yao's situation. At that time, Hui Yao's top Creation Master resources were far superior. There was still a certain gap between them and the Freedom Federation. Now, Radiance had one Class 6 Creation Master and two Class 5 Creation Masters. Behind the scenes, there was still Lin Yuan. It meant that Radiance would have at least one more Class 6 Creation Master and a Class 5 Creation Master. The Moon Empress had never believed that Lin Yuan could concoct pure Spirit Qi. Everything depended on the standard of a Creation Master. After all, given Lin Yuan's strength, it was impossible for him to find the path to become a Class 5 Creation Master. A Creation Master's strength was closely related to a Spirit Qi professional's strength. However, as long as Lin Yuan could concoct such pure Spirit Qi, he would be able to use it. Lin Yuan could be considered a Class 6 Creation Master. Compared to extracting the power of eternity from the eternal heart image, mixing pure spiritual Qi was undoubtedly more important. The Moon Empress specially inquired about it and found out that it had the momentum to become one of the top 3 factions of the Radiant sect. The Coiling Dragon Valley that filled the void of trade in the Whale Ocean. The Coiling Dragon Valley had obtained plenty of law crystals from Lin Yuan. Even Coiling Dragon Valley's old patriarch could become an undying. It was also related to the world crystals that Lin Yuan had provided. At that time, Lin Yuan had indeed controlled Di Wanmi. However, Lin Yuan had already traded law crystals with the Coiling Dragon Valley. Moreover, the Miao family's beast creation garden had been destroyed by Sky City. He had also traded law crystals with Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress clearly remembered that she had not given him the law crystal. After all, the Moon Empress had never thought that Lin Yuan would grow so quickly. He did not expect Lin Yuan to use something like a law crystal. After discovering Lin Yuan's extraordinariness, he blinked his eyes. Lin Yuan had already grown to the point where he could help her. Not long ago, he even brought him to the swamp world. It absorbed the moon in the swamp world. The Moon Empress felt that Lin Yuan's growth was very important. As the master, it was very difficult for him to be of any more help. However, the Moon Empress could do her best. Go and guard Lin Yuan and protect him. At that moment, the other High Holiness didn't know what the Moon Empress was thinking. Sincere and joyful smiles appeared on the faces of the 12 kings. The old man sitting on the golden pillar in the middle heaved a sigh of relief. He raised his hand to the sunlight and looked at his wrinkled and old palms. The old man felt that he could finally relax at this moment. The old man believed that as long as his body was strong enough, he could hold on for another 5 years. Give the Moon Empress another 5 years to accumulate. Even if he really was on a journey to the west. The Moon Empress could also take over his position and protect Hui Yao. At that moment, the mountain river set bells, one of the 4 important artifacts of the Radiant Stabilization Nation, appeared. The sounds suddenly became faster. Ripples splashed above the barrier erected by the set of mountains and rivers. Through the barrier, one could faintly see a figure standing in the air above the barrier. In an instant, the dozens of bells on the Shanha State bells. It glowed with a magnificent bronze light. The figure of a man covered in mountain patterns and the figure of a woman covered in river patterns. One on the left and one on the right, they appeared beside the chimes. Each of them held a wooden mallet in their hands. Both men and women wore musician hats on their heads. They were like 2 court musicians. Immediately after, the wooden mallets in their hands were wrapped in a huge force and knocked on the set of mountains and rivers. A song that was filled with murderous intent suddenly rang out. The sound of the bell was magnificent. With every chime, a fairy holding an orchid appeared out of thin air in the sky. The fairy flew into the sky with a gentle and beautiful posture. The body of each fairy was formed by water patterns. The silk on their bodies was covered with mountain patterns. The orchid in their hands continued to grow as the fairy flew in the sky. Finally, the orchid pole became a sword. The orchid leaves were like streamers. The 36 fairies seemed to be waiting for something. At that moment, in the middle of the 36 flying fairies, a dancer who looked like a sacrificial priest appeared. In the hands of the dancer, a handful of silk threads condensed from mountain patterns and river patterns appeared. These silk threads were tied to the bodies of the 36 flying fairies. In an instant, the killing intent of these flying maidservants merged together. It was as if these 36 fairies could form a sword formation with the orchid sword in their hands at any time. They attacked the figure standing in the air at the top of the protective shield of the set of mountains and rivers. This was the killing formation formed by the set of mountains and rivers. It was the song of the set of mountains and rivers. Feeling this killing intent, he had already logged out of the star web. Li Su, who was waiting for the god of pity to descend, narrowed his eyes. It was undeniable that Hui Yao's national stabilizing treasure was indeed powerful. Thinking of this, Li Su looked fearfully at the old man sitting in the middle of the golden stone pillar. Back then, this old man had risked his legs to no longer be able to walk and lost a lot of his life force. He also had to refine the 7 national stabilizing treasures. They could indeed protect Hui Yao's country. Although the set of mountains and rivers attacked spontaneously, it was far from as sharp as the attack of a celestial phenomenon. But it was not much different from a casual attack of a celestial phenomenon. It would take some effort for him to receive this attack. During this process, if someone with the same strength as him suddenly made a move, he would not be able to escape. He would definitely be at a disadvantage. To a certain extent, the 7 national stabilizing treasures of Hui Yao with different functions, together with Hui Yao's majesty. It could guarantee that Hui Yao's majesty would have the upper hand in a battle with someone of the same strength. Even if the Radiance Federation's national stabilizing treasures were not defined as tools to assist Hui Yao's majesty. Now, the set of mountains and rivers was a spontaneous attack. Presumably, it should be able to easily kill a peak creation stage spirit creature. It could even seriously injure a fae that had an immortal body and activated an immortal body. However, this level of attack was far from enough for the god of pity. Even if this attack hit the god of pity, she only relied on the power of her life providence and did not activate her spirit chi to protect herself. She could still block it unscathed. At that moment, among the 13 majesties, the bamboo monarch, who had not spoken much, suddenly appeared. A purplish gold bamboo pattern suddenly lit up on his forehead. His eyes also turned purplish gold at that moment. A purplish gold bamboo shadow connected heaven and earth like a pillar supporting the sky. Together with the soaring fairies, it attacked the figure above the shield. Right at this moment, a voice that seemed to pity all living beings resounded. I didn't come to the Radiance Federation to provoke conflict. I came here to bring everyone back after the end of the Independent 100 sequence. While speaking, a golden-red slender fishtail suddenly stretched down from above the shield. This fishtail was only the size of a normal human's legs. Its tail fin was full of cinnabar spots. These cinnabar spots emitted a captivating red divine brilliance. This seemingly soft fishtail collided with the purplish gold bamboo shadow. Chapter 1677. The fishtail emitted a golden-red radiance that immediately covered the purple light of the bamboo shadow. The fishtail and the bamboo shadow collided, but it was not as expected. There was a fierce battle. The fish's tail calmly blocked the purple gold bamboo shadow. It was like a pair of hands blocking a pair of chopsticks. It made the chopsticks unable to move forward. The orchid swords held by the 30 fairies holding the orchid swords. At this moment, the fishtail heavily chopped at the fishtail. The fishtail shook slightly, and the golden-red light shadow was like waves. It swung toward the 30 fairies holding the orchid swords. In an instant, these fairies holding the orchid swords collapsed into mountain patterns and river patterns. It could be said that the fishtail swung down and blocked the bamboo monarch's attack. It also easily dissolved the attack from the mountain river set bells that could kill a creation breed fae. At this moment, the pitying voice of the woman sounded again. Bamboo monarch, your attack just now was still at the level of 10 years ago. In these 10 years, it is impossible that you did not improve at all. It seems that the Radiance sect is still the same. You like to hide all your abilities. I blocked your attack, and I didn't even retaliate. This is my sincerity. While speaking, the fishtail swung. The golden-red light shadow was like a wave, rushing toward the purple gold bamboo shadow. The surging waves instantly crushed the purple gold bamboo shadow into pieces. At this moment, the figure with the golden-red fishtail stood up completely. She was wearing a golden-red long gauze. On the long gauze, there were huge pearls hanging one after another. The gauze could not hide the woman's exquisite body. Her face was exquisite, and her skin was snow-white. Her long golden-red hair hung below the fishtail. There were 2 red moles at the corners of her eyes like cinnabar spots on the tail. It could be said that other than her skin, the woman's entire body was golden red. However, there was a trace of blue in her golden red eyes. Although this blue was weak, it easily covered the golden red color. It was as if this blue was the most agile part of the woman's body. Looking at the woman who appeared in the shield, the 13 majesties on the golden stone pillars all had serious expressions. However, compared to the 13 majesties of the Radiance sect, there was an even bigger reaction. He was one of the Freedom Federation's ambassadors, standing at the very back of the group. The examinee's originally expressionless face suddenly revealed an expression of disgust. At the same time, there was a deep fear. This figure looked at Li Su, who was at the forefront of the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. Li Su noticed the gaze of this figure. Seeing the surging gray in the figure's eyes, Li Su communicated directly with this figure through his soul power. Second page of Revival, the arrival of the pitiful goddess will not affect our plan. Don't worry too much. The expression on the figure's face did not change. But after hearing Li Su's words, the surging gray in his eyes became even more intense. Li Su, the person the pity goddess hates the most is me, followed by the Moon Empress. If the compassionate goddess knows of my existence, can you guarantee that she won't attack me or affect my movements? Li Su glanced at Qian Yu. Back in the Sacred Hall of Liberty, it was decided through a meeting. Li Su was the only leader of this diplomatic mission. Every majesty of the Freedom Federation operates their own forces, controlling the interests of one side. The cooperation with Second Page of Revival was privately contacted by Li Su himself. The other majesties of the Freedom Federation did not know. However, Qian Yu was the pity goddess's caretaker. He contacted the pity goddess in private and invited her to come personally. Although Li Su got the news from Qian Yu in advance, he was rather unhappy. However, in the Freedom Federation, everything was based on strength. Although they were all majesties, the right to speak was very different. In front of the pity goddess, Li Su could not change her decision. In the face of Second Page of Revival's doubts, Li Su could not give an accurate answer. Li Su had just arrived in the Radiance Federation and came into contact with Second Page of Revival. He was dissatisfied with Second Page of Revival. This was because the Radiance 100 sequence exam had officially begun. Li Su had not seen the existence of Sixth Page of Flogging. More than once, Li Su had asked Second Page of Revival about the Black Mass Cup. Second Page of Revival did not give an affirmative answer at first. However, when he asked for the second time, Second Page of Revival said very firmly. This made Li Su feel that Second Page of Revival was not reliable. Therefore, facing Second Page of Revival's doubts, Li Su said directly, "The pity goddess's arrival will not affect our cooperation. According to the content of our cooperation, you do not have to reveal your identity in front of the pity goddess. Even if the pity goddess really finds you, I will share some benefits with her. Before our cooperation ends, I guarantee that the pity goddess will not make a move on you." If the entire Radiant Sacred Hall had not been enveloped by the stately bells, it would take a certain amount of time to break through the stately bells, and Second Page of Revival would definitely leave this place immediately. This was because too many situations had exceeded Second Page of Revival's expectations. Moreover, until now, the pity goddess had not found Second Page of Revival. In order to take that step, the pity goddess had used the blood of the deep-sea merfolk to wash her body. She had forcibly allowed her body to obtain the merfolk bloodline. Because of this, the deep-sea merfolk were almost extinct. Among the Ocean Empire's 8 clans, the Emperor Whale clan, which was originally a vassal of the deep-sea merfolk, had lost their support. Even so, the Emperor Whale clan was still ahead of the Emperor Ray and Emperor Mermaid clans. However, because of this method, she had forcibly obtained the merfolk bloodline. The pity goddess had been cursed by the deep-sea merfolk. To break the curse, the pity goddess needed to purify the merfolk bloodline in her body. To let the merfolk bloodline in her body reach a certain level, there were 2 ways to improve the merfolk bloodline. One was to continue to use the blood of ordinary merfolk to wash herself. The other way was to gain the love of the Mermaid Royal family. Only by being marked by the Mermaid Royal family with a reverse scale could the bloodline be improved again. After learning about this, the pity goddess had mobilized the power of the entire Freedom Federation. She had searched all over the world. In the end, her efforts had paid off. The pity goddess had finally found a group of deep-sea merfolk in the sea near the Forbidden Land. The bloodline of these merfolk was very thin. The pity goddess had wanted to catch this group of deep-sea merfolk and raise them to achieve sustainable development. However, the original plan of the Tower Cannon also required the merfolk bloodline. It was Second Page of Revival who had personally killed this group of deep-sea merfolk that the pity goddess had treated as a treasure. They had extracted the merfolk bloodline and brought it back to the Tower Cannon. Because of this reason, there had been a rift between the Tower Canon and the Freedom Federation, which had been relatively close. Later, the Tower Canon told the Pity Goddess a piece of news. It was that the deep-sea merfolk were probably the descendants of a high-level dimensional creature in the water world. Chapter 1678. Back then, these high-level dimensional lifeforms might have come to the origin world through a pinnacle class 5-dimensional rift. They reproduced in the deep sea and left behind descendants with relatively thin bloodlines. At first, the Pity God did not accept this explanation. However, one of the Freedom Federation's experts had contracted the origin water, a sacred source lifeform, which was the origin water. It made the Pity God feel close to the bloodline source. Thus, the Pity God believed the Pagoda Canon. The Pity God used her resources to nurture this expert. Along the way, she even nurtured this expert into the Freedom Federation's majesty. In the end, this expert died at the hands of the Moon Empress. This allowed the Moon Empress to take her place and become the person that the Pity God hated the most. However, the Pity God did not even have the slightest bit of hope. Apart from hating the Moon Empress, she would still hate herself. Second Page Revival made up his mind. In a while, when the competition started, he only wanted to protect himself. Even if the younger generation of the Freedom Federation envoys were all dead, he would not make a move. After calculating the time, he remembered that Lord Scarlet Page's 4 riders were about to arrive. Second Page Revival's heart calmed down. When the Bamboo Monarch heard the Pity God's words, he said coldly, "It's not a good habit to come uninvited. As for how capable we are, you don't have to worry about it." The Pity God did not care about the Bamboo Monarch's words. However, when she looked at the Moon Empress, her entire body suddenly turned cold. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. "Moon Empress, long time no see." The Moon Empress looked up at the Pity God and said, 10 years is indeed a long time. Even if we don't do anything right now, our strength will still improve. But you have been standing still. You must not be having a good time, right?" When she heard the Moon Empress' words, the Pity God was so angry that she laughed. The mermaid bloodline could not be improved, and the Pity God's strength was completely stuck. Therefore, even if the Pity God had suffered a lot in the past 10 years, in terms of strength, she still did not make any progress. The Moon Empress' words were the same as touching a sore spot. The Pity God had only come to the Radiance Federation to bring Qian Yu back safely. Because of Qian Yu's sacred source life form, the Pity God saw new hope. Otherwise, the Pity God would not be in the mood to choose a favored person and train him. However, after hearing the Moon Empress' words, right now, Lian Shen really couldn't take this lying down. "Moon Empress, I haven't made any progress for the past 10 years. But so what if my strength hasn't improved in 10 years? You, on the other hand, don't have much lifespan left. If you can't fight against the heavens, you'll only be struggling at death's door. If your strength hadn't improved by leaps and bounds 10 years ago, in another 3 to 4 years, I think there will be one less Lord of Radiance. The number of Class 5 Creation Masters in Radiance will also decrease by 1. By then, the Radiance sect will have 2 Class 5 Creation Masters again. It's the same as a few decades ago, 1 less than the Azure Federation. When the time comes, the 3 great federations should be properly ranked. I heard that the Sand State Federation has a 2nd Class 5 Creation Master. I wonder if the Republic of Radiance will be able to maintain the glory of being in 3rd place when compared to the Sand Continent Federation? At this moment, regarding this sudden turn of events, on the 100 silver stone pillars were the Radiance 100 sequence members and the eliminated candidates. They were all watching it happen. The Moon Empress knew that the Goddess of Compassion wanted to make an issue out of her. To belittle the Republic of Radiance. To attack the Republic of Radiance's morale. Therefore, the Moon Empress didn't say anything. She pointed her finger at the Goddess of Compassion. A chain of moonlight shot toward the Goddess of Mercy. The goddess of compassion didn't care much. But when she saw the layer of clear brilliance that appeared on the moonlight chain, the goddess of compassion's expression immediately turned serious. The dark red cinnabar spot on her fishtail rapidly grew bigger. It turned the originally golden red fishtail into a captivating red. The goddess of compassion did a flip in the air, and her golden red fishtail fiercely whipped the moonlight chain. At this moment, the goddess of compassion's fishtail was also stained with a layer of clear brilliance. After the two collided, the goddess of compassion looked at the Moon Empress in surprise. Interesting. You've actually resolved the lifespan crisis. Heaven and earth treasures don't have the ability to greatly increase lifespan. I think your strength has broken through. However, awakening the birth providence is just the beginning of reaching that realm. As she spoke, the expression on the goddess of compassion's face was no longer as arrogant as before. Except for that old man, who was a true pinnacle expert at that time. Radiance had produced another pinnacle expert at that time. If it was just the old man, the goddess of compassion was confident that she could escape unscathed. But now, there was another Moon Empress. Even if the goddess of compassion could leave, she would never be able to take Qianyu away. It was not an exaggeration to say that Qianyu was the goddess of compassion's life. If Qianyu died, the goddess of compassion would completely lose hope. Therefore, the goddess of compassion said no more. Her figure flashed in the air and appeared again. She was already beside Li Su. The Moon Empress and Night Leaning Moon looked at each other. Their original plan was to keep the people of the Pagoda Canon in radiance as much as possible. Back then, the Moon Empress had made such a decision because her strength had increased. But now that the goddess of compassion had arrived, the Moon Empress had to re-examine her plan. The Moon Empress was not afraid of the goddess of compassion. With Lin Yuan's help, the Moon Empress had taken another step forward after awakening her birth providence. Even if she fought with an eternal expert on the land of radiance, the Moon Empress could also guarantee that it would not affect radiance in the slightest. But now, once she fought with the goddess of compassion, the goddess of compassion would use her full strength. It would immediately cause a disaster in radiance. It was unknown how many ordinary people would be affected. Her Majesty's duty was to protect the stability of radiance. In fact, in the origin world, the various federations could maintain relative peace. This was because these federations all had top experts. These top experts were the Federation's strongest deterrent. They were also the foundation of the Federation's self-protection. For example, there were no such top experts in the Aegean continent's three major federations. There were no Class 5 creation masters. Therefore, even if there were abundant resources, there had never been a moment of true peace. The Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation had always been arm wrestling. But neither side had chosen to make the first move. It was precisely because of this reason. Because no matter which side made a move, if they did not have the confidence to kill the other side immediately, they would immediately suffer from the other side's counterattack. The goddess of compassion's arrival made the Moon Empress need to adjust her original plan. It was just that she did not know which 2 pages of the Pagoda Canon had come this time. The relationship between the Freedom Federation and the Pagoda Canon had never been able to become truly close. It could be said that 80% of it was because of the goddess of compassion. At least 4 of the 8 pages of the Pagoda Canon had become enemies with the goddess of compassion. They had fought with each other before. The Moon Empress had never planned to do anything to the Freedom Federation's envoy. Therefore, the goddess of compassion's arrival was not considered a bad thing. Chapter 1679. The relationship between the Freedom Federation and the Tower Canon had always been rather ambiguous. In other words, the Freedom Federation and most of the factions in the main world were rather ambiguous. However, they hated each other. This abnormal contradictory situation was mainly due to the relationship between the Freedom Federation and the other federations. It was all up to the overlords themselves. Every majesty, for their own benefit, would go and befriend a faction. However, this kind of friendship usually only represented the overlord themselves. It could not represent the entire Freedom Federation. Just like the Pity Goddess and the Tower Cannon. However, the other two overlords of the Freedom Federation who were qualified to be called gods and Li Su were close to the Tower Cannon. The Tower Cannon would send 2 8-page members to the Radiance Federation, which was the news given by the Heaven-Blessed Mansion. The Heaven-Blessed Mansion had received such a great favor from the Moon Goddess and Lin Yuan. The words that came out of his mouth could not be false. Any expert who could call himself a god had already reached that level. An expert of this level, especially in the Freedom Federation, was extremely powerful. It was impossible for them to wrong themselves and fulfill the interests of others. Therefore, the Pity Goddess most likely did not know that the Tower Cannon had 2 pages. If the Tower Cannon's 2 8-page members wanted to find a suitable ally in the Radiance Federation, then the best choice of ally would be Li Su. The Moon Empress planned to keep an eye on Li Su and be on guard. In addition, she could not relax on the Pity Goddess side. Who knew if the Pity Goddess had other plans when she came? By now, 3 days had passed. The Radiance 100 sequence test was about to come to an end. The area of the test space was rapidly shrinking from the periphery to the inside. The battles on the last day made all the Star Web viewers feel shocked from the bottom of their hearts. This duel had shown all the people in the Radiance Federation who were watching the 100 sequence. It showed the battle between the human spirit chi professionals and dimensional lifeforms. It let people know that peace and stability were forged with flesh and blood. At this moment, there were only 1,700 spirit chi professionals left in the central area. At this time, there were still so many people left. It was mainly due to Gao Feng's efforts. Gao Feng's 2 spirit spring lilies automatically gathered spirit chi. In the air, they formed 2 translucent spirit chi vortexes. These spirit spring lilies transferred all the spirit chi to Gao Feng. They helped Gao Feng recover the spirit chi in his body. The petals of the breeze hibiscus landed on every spirit chi professional and formed a hibiscus mark. It would continuously replenish the spiritual energy of these candidates. In the beginning, Gao Feng's spiritual power was exhausted. It was a harsh burden to nourish over 8,000 spirit chi professionals at once. Under this kind of burden, Gao Feng quickly exhausted himself. If the strength of the 2 spirit spring lilies hadn't reached Diamond X/Fantasy V, the skill also had the ability to speed up the recovery of spiritual energy. Gao Feng might even pass out from overexertion. However, even if Gao Feng persevered, the hibiscus imprint's effect on over 8,000 spirit chi professionals was also greatly reduced like when Gao Feng used it normally. However, it was precisely this trace after trace of spiritual power that was being restored. It allowed these examinees to have hope and rely on him. Even though he was heavily injured and had to be treated again and again, he still persisted. With the continuous loss of members, Gao Feng's pressure became lighter and lighter. When the number of people was reduced to 2,000, Gao Feng's situation of not being able to make ends meet had turned for the better. Gradually, the 2 spirit spring lilies filled Gao Feng's body with spirit energy. Gao Feng used all his strength to activate the hibiscus imprint. At the same time, he let the spirit spring lilies use the lily dragon spirit. The giant dragon image with the lily flower wrapped around it controlled the clouds and rain. It replenished the spiritual power of every surviving examinee and their phase. If Lin Yuan was the savior of the entire 100 sequence exam, he used methods that ordinary examinees couldn't understand to control the exam's difficulty. No matter how Lin Yuan looked at it, he was like an invigilator. Gao Feng's behavior was like the examinee's savior. He was clearly a soft support and didn't attack throughout the entire process. However, he became the examinee's strongest support at this moment. At this moment, the major live streaming rooms were no longer one-sided praises and Li Nao's bootlicking. Gao Feng's performance had completely suppressed Li Nao. Lu Shuang said with certainty. The 3 phase that Gao Feng summoned must be 3 Diamond X/Fantasy V existences. Otherwise, it is impossible to support the current situation. Moreover, the abilities of these 3 phase must be extremely powerful. Among all the supports that I have seen, Gao Feng might be a soft support, but in a team battle, Gao Feng is definitely the strongest support. While speaking, Lu Shuang pondered. At this moment, Lu Shuang seemed to understand why the Radiance 100 sequence exam started. Black formed black wings on its back and went to look for Gao Feng. Originally, Lu Shuang couldn't understand. But now, Lu Shuang seemed to have thought it through. To put it bluntly, Black and Gao Feng came to this exam to gain experience. Gao Feng and Black both had Diamond X/Fantasy V phase. Such strength had exceeded the scope of the exam. The two of them were originally prepared to watch from the sidelines in the yellow sand castle. They only made a move when they saw that the other examinees couldn't hold on anymore. It was rumored that His Holiness Cicada Cry had accepted a disciple. This disciple was a support-type spirit chi professional from a top faction. It seemed like he was a pure support. Thinking about it, this person should be Gao Feng. This was something that Lu Shuang had analyzed from her own level. He definitely wouldn't say it in the live streaming room. If Gao Feng was really His Holiness Cicada Cry's disciple, only Gao Feng himself could reveal it. If she revealed it herself, it would be overstepping her authority. But if she analyzed wrongly and Gao Feng wasn't His Holiness Cicada Cry's disciple, if she said it out loud, wouldn't it be the same as spreading rumors? She didn't have the ability to arrange a disciple for His Holiness Cicada Cry for no reason. Lu Shuang didn't say anything. The viewers in the live streaming room started to discuss without any scruples. Snowflakes on the cloud, did you guys see the post on Star Web? Gao Feng is the young family head of the Gao family, a top faction. No wonder he is so strong. I announce that from now on, Gao Feng is the same as Black. They are both my husbands. Yuro Sakura, sister, tighten your legs a little. First Black is mine, second Gao Feng is also mine. Boots, blooming for your life, I will put a chicken coop here today. Let's see who will crawl into it. Shadow 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 shadow, Gao Feng is definitely the strongest support I have ever seen. I was wrong. I shouldn't have had any prejudice against support-type spirit chi professionals. When I form a team in the Guild Alliance in the future, I must choose a support-type spirit chi professional. Regretful World Walk, I suggest that you guys consider forming a team with support-type spirit chi professionals in the future. After all, not every support-type spirit chi professional is Gao Feng. Chapter 1680. Agate Tangerine. Indeed, after forming a team, the output, defense, and healing are not enough. Just don't blame the support in the team. The comments in the live streaming room were so fast that Lu Shuang couldn't keep up. It could be said that this duel, which lasted for 3 days, was getting more and more boring. Because of Black, Gao Feng, Li Nao, and a series of heroes fighting in every corner. And it became exciting. A person's quality, ability to resist pressure, communication ability, strength, and other factors. They were all at a glance during the 3 days of the test. In the entire test, as long as they had the ability, they had obtained enough attention and fans. At that moment, a childish post instantly became popular in the forum. The general content of the post was, I am fortunate to have the talent of a combat class spirit chi professional. I must work hard to become stronger. My hometown is in a remote county in Cloud Pool City. There are several swamp dimensional rifts that have opened here, and huge crocodiles and flying insects that are bigger than heads have come out. Giant lizards that can flatten a house with a tail. People who live in our world are used to it. That was because every time a dimensional rift opened up, it would be destroyed. There will always be uncles in black clothes and city guards in green clothes on the scene to solve it. Now, I want to say to those uncles in black clothes and city guards that have worked hard. I must become an uncle in black clothes and a city guard in the future. Through the post on Star Web, one could see the poster. From the poster's profile picture, one could see the poster's personal space. The person who discovered the post was an 8-year-old girl. A primary school student who had just started a spirit chi professional elementary school. In fact, before this post was posted, many people were already thinking the same thing. The hot-bloodedness in his bones was resonating with an invisible light. There were many spirit chi professionals who didn't intend to go to the abyss world to develop. They packed their bags. Everyone who had the talent to become a combat class spirit chi professional felt that they were lucky. No matter how difficult it was to upgrade phase or how dangerous the battle was. At least when facing danger, they had the ability to protect themselves. More and more such posts appeared. Radiance was dazzling in the Star Web forum. Everything that happened in the Star Web live streaming room and forum had nothing to do with the candidates who were fighting the insect tide. The Star Web blocked the outside world from probing the inside. But in the test space, if someone possessed the talent of a creation master, it could detect teammates, opponents, phase abilities and exclusive skills. The benefits of becoming a creation weren't just about enhancing phase. At the same time, it would be of great help in battle. Fighting against a spirit chi professional that was stronger than him? This benefit was negligible. He could fight against a spirit chi professional who was almost as strong as him. After the creation master understood the other party's strength and exclusive skill, the creation master didn't hesitate. Everything could be prepared in advance and respond effectively. Even if he knew he couldn't win, he could still find an opportunity to escape. He wouldn't have to fight until the very end to realize that he wasn't a match for his opponent from the very beginning. Lin Yuan had checked many people's phase in the yellow sand castle. Li Nao's dead folded winged purple Spiathos and the heavily injured rotten spotted Tengu that was still fighting the horn demon. They were all power offense type K9 phase. K9 phase were a major species. There were countless outstanding phase. Li Nao's talent gave him the qualifications to become a pinnacle spirit chi professional. Li Nao had only summoned 2 phase. Be it the folded winged purple Spiathos or the rotten spotted Tengu. They were extremely outstanding among the K9 phase. In Lin Yuan's opinion, Li Nao had a lot of potential to be nurtured. When Lin Yuan saw Gao Feng's spirit spring lily, their abilities were only on the platinum level. At that time, the spirit spring lily didn't have the ability to control the dragon spirit and summon rain. Lin Yuan used Morbius True data to check on the spirit spring lily. After checking, Lin Yuan discovered something. These 2 spirit spring lilies' diamond abilities were surprisingly the same. They were all lily spirit nurturing. For a Fae, the probability of having the same normal ability was very high. In order to make the normal ability the same as the elite ability, one had to choose from hundreds of them. If they had the same silver ability, one would only be able to choose 1 pair from tens of thousands of them. Back then, Lu Pinru wanted to choose normal, elite, and silver abilities. She had spent a lot of effort to obtain the same exclusive skill as the bronze luster branch mulberry silkworm. Even if she had found the Radiance 100 sequence number 18, White Devil, for help. She had spent a lot of effort to find one. Afterward, Lu Pinru joined the Dome Guild Club. She became a member of the Dome Guild Club's reserve team. Lin Yuan helped Lu Pinru search for luster weaver silkworms that met her requirements in the Brahma insect cage. He found 13 at once. The main reason was that the Brahma insect cage was a top faction that monopolized the market and had more than 70% of insect species phase. It had tens of millions of luster weaver silkworms. However, the stronger the Fae, the greater the change in the abilities. After the creation master's research, he found out the abilities obtained when the Fae evolved and the Fae's survival conditions. It had a lot to do with the Fae's own thoughts. When a Fae grew to platinum, its bloodline would more or less have some changes. Therefore, for 2 platinum Faes to have the same abilities, This was already a very difficult thing to do. After Lu Pinru enhanced the dozens of luster weaver silkworms, it was impossible to maintain the same abilities. However, this would not affect Lu Pinru. The first 3 abilities were the same, allowing Lu Pinru to quickly assist the team. The luster weaver silkworm's high-grade abilities consumed more spiritual power. It could not be used casually like low-grade abilities. These different high-grade abilities made Lu Pinru's support ability more comprehensive. It increased Lu Pinru's value in the team. Lin Yuan felt that if His Holiness Cicada Cry had not encountered Gao Feng, even if it had encountered Lu Pinru, His Holiness Cicada Cry might have considered taking Lu Pinru as a disciple. For 2 Platinum Fays to have the same abilities, the probability was 1 in 10,000. However, Gao Feng was actually lucky that the 2 Spirit Spring Lily's diamond abilities were exactly the same. Lily's Spirit Containment absorbed the soul of an animal Fey through the roots. Depending on the absorbed animal soul, obtain the ability from the Fey's bloodline and use this ability to spread spiritual power. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the Spirit Spring Lily's diamond ability, Lily's Spirit Containment, was rather special. Dragon Spirit was just a form of expression of the Spirit Spring Lily's diamond ability. It was the Spirit Spring Lily's diamond ability, Lily's Spirit Containment. If Gao Feng wanted to, he could play more tricks. Chapter 1681. It was the Spirit Spring Lily's diamond rank skill, Lily's Spirit Accumulation. It was very similar to Lin Yuan's contracted Golden Wings exclusive skill, Unstable Temperament. During the process of coming into contact with Fays, one's temperament was unstable. It could store the Fays' exclusive skills and passive abilities. At that time, the exclusive skill Unpredictable Temperament would become an exclusive skill and passive skill that could be replaced. The time limit for each replacement was 1 cycle of the sun and moon. Lin Yuan had yet to nurture the Golden Wing. However, after Chu Ci returned, Lin Yuan had let the Golden Wing use its exclusive skill, Unstable Temperament. He stored the Silver Mirror Radiant Sun Bull's elite skill, Sacrifice. Back then, Lin Yuan had chosen the Dying Sharp Iron Horn Bull. He had taken a fancy to the Sharp Iron Horn Bull's elite ability, Sacrifice. It could be said that Lin Yuan had always coveted Sacrifice. The elite grade ability, Sacrifice, had only been found on cow species Fays. However, the chances of this happening were simply too low. When the golden-winged bird became stronger and Lin Yuan's main body was injured, he could share the damage with the golden wing. This was a life-saving skill at a critical moment. In addition, it was very easy for the golden wing to change its stored passive skills and exclusive skills after using the Unpredictable Temperament skill. 1 day later, they could make the changes. As for the Spirit Spring Lily's diamond rank skill, Lily's Spirit Accumulation. Compared to Golden Wing's exclusive skill, Unpredictable Temperament, the time limit was shorter. However, a large amount of resources had to be invested in the replacement process. After all, it wasn't that easy to refine a Fae's soul. In order to refine a Fae's soul, the Fae had to be strong enough. Only then would it be possible for the soul to take form in the process of death. Secondly, he needed the help of a soul-type Fae. Furthermore, this soul-type Fae's strength was not inferior to a myth breed. A soul-type Fae with strength below myth breed. Unless one was extremely talented, they would not have the ability to extract the target's soul. Of course, this situation did not apply to the legendary soul-thought whale. Gao Feng used the Lily Dragon Spirit to summon rain and restore the target's spiritual power through raindrops. It was obvious that Gao Feng had let the Spirit Spring Lily absorb plenty of Flood Dragon species Fae's souls. On this basis, Gao Feng had many other choices. After all, every Fae had a different innate ability. In the current situation, if Gao Feng allowed the Jasmine Lily to absorb the soul of the Drought Sandworm, it would not be able to survive. In that case, any Spirit Chi professionals or Faes that had their feet on the ground would die. They could recover their spiritual energy through contact with the ground. However, contracting the drought sandworm also had its drawbacks. During the battle, flying-type phase would not be able to replenish their spirit chi. However, absorbing the flood dragon phase soul and condensing the lily dragon spirit was not foolproof. If Lin Yuan and Gao Feng were enemies, he only needed to summon Chimey and let it cast clear skies. The dark clouds formed by the lily dragon spirits dispersed. Therefore, if it was really a battle in the wild, Gao Feng should prepare more spirit item souls. Then use it at your discretion. This allowed his lily spirit accumulation to not be countered by the enemy. Lin Yuan was more aware of the difficulty of the test than the other candidates. The test space covered 100,000 kilometers. The speed at which the test space was shrinking was about 10,000 kilometers every half an hour. In other words, 5 hours later, the test space would disappear completely. While the trial space was shrinking, the dimensional rift would not disappear. Instead, they would converge at the center. As the space shrank, it was the same as increasing the cohesion of the exotic beast tide. The decisive factor for the candidates to persist until now was Lin Yuan. If not, they would have taken the initiative to extend their sand palms from the yellow sand and attack the Class 3 and Class 4 alien insects and demons. They would drag the Class 3 and Class 4 alien insects and demons into the yellow sand. Red thorn would constantly consume the eye of relinquish to maintain and expand the sea of flowers. Even if there were 10 more Gao Fengs, the core region would have long been wiped out. A support was just a support, especially a soft support. When the teammates were strong enough, the soft support would be able to reflect its ability. However, when the team was not strong enough, no matter how strong the soft support was, it would not be able to turn the situation around. Lin Yuan quietly looked at the core region and the 1,000 candidates. At that moment, the oath that everyone and Li Nao had made was already invalid. It was obvious that someone was playing tricks on them. Such a situation immediately caused an intense discussion on the star web. Everyone had different thoughts in their hearts. Therefore, the star web netizens had different opinions. However, Lin Yuan felt that there was nothing wrong with the current competition. Right now, each of the 1,000 candidates had sacrificed too much for the team. Their bodies were always covered in new injuries and old injuries. In fact, some people's hands and feet were already missing. They were still holed up in the camp and commanding phase to fight. This Radiance 100 sequence test was a competition after all. The first 3 days had already proven these people's character. 3 days later, the competition that had already been decided would naturally be carried out. At that moment, there were only 6 former Radiance 100 sequence members left. It was enough to see how high the quality of the former 100 sequence members was. Right now, the original cooperative relationship had become a competitive relationship. Everyone's reaction was also the focus of the High Lord's assessment. Emotions and rationality had always been two contradictory values. Even if the emotional people had thoughts, it would be difficult for them to make a move on their comrades who had fought for 3 days. The rational people knew that this was an assessment. When it was time to make a decision, they had to make a decision. On the golden stone pillar, Night Leaning Moon and Cicada Cry were both observing. The remaining 1,000 people could be said to be the true elites of the Radiant Sect's younger generation. The rational people were chosen by Night Leaning Moon. The spirit guards were in charge of taking in calamitous phase, destroying dimensional rifts, and dealing with emergencies. The spirit guards could be in danger at any time. Therefore, the spirit guards had to have a rational side. The spirit guards and the city guards pursued the duty of protection. The city guards paid particular attention to not abandoning or giving up because they were protecting the big city. In the big city, even if they were pushed back by a step, the people in the big city would be in danger. Therefore, the city guards never abandoned or gave up. They could only advance and not retreat. Emotional people were suitable to be cultivated as city guards. When the spirit guards were in danger, they could be completely wiped out at any time. There had to be rational people to make a decision. When it was time to give up, they had to give up. Sometimes, giving up oneself was also to be able to better protect. At present, the competing candidates in the core area had been divided by the two High Lords. They had already been divided by the two High Lords. In the next year, these candidates would continuously receive invitations from the true Spirit Guards and the major city guards. End of this chapter. You're tuning into the A Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.